This is City News.
CIWW 1310 AM in Ottawa.
And CJET 1011 FM in Smiths Falls and the Valley. Number one for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
It is Tuesday, January 24th. Good morning. I am Damilola Unime. Right now in Ottawa and in Smiths Falls, mostly cloudy, -1. And here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. Around 120,000 federal workers are going to hold a vote on whether or not to go on strike. A statement from the Public Service Alliance of Canada says there will be a strike vote held from February 22 to April 19 for its public service employees working in programs and administrative services, operational services, technical services, and education and library science. The union says it is insulting that the federal government has offered a pay increase of around 2%, and it is angry the feds have ordered bureaucrats to start returning to the office, saying remote work is an issue being negotiated at the bargaining table. The union did not specify what type of raise the union is looking for at the table. With the weather forecast for Ottawa and the Valley, here is City News weather specialist Denise Andriachi.
A few flurries here and there for the day today, mostly cloudy and a breezy wind out of the southwest. Things really get going for Wednesday as we have widespread snow moving in 10 to 20 centimeters here in Smiths Falls and Ottawa. Temperatures will be closer to seasonal, probably around -5 to -7 for daytime highs. We're definitely in the snow zone and it's going to accumulate rapidly, especially later through the day Wednesday with those winds quite gusty out of the east. Overnight tonight, we're down to lows near -10.
City News time is 10:03. There have been a number of layoffs recently in the tech sector. So how is Ottawa's tech sector doing? City News reporter Chris Curries has the details.
The CEO of Invest Ottawa says we shouldn't be spooked because this is a normal occurrence during near recession times. And Michael Tremblay tells City News that that can still present with a favorable outcome.
It presents an opportunity as well. And we shouldn't forget that talent matters. And where there are disruptions, there are opportunities for new businesses to emerge and new opportunities to be pursued.
Tremblay does add there does still look to be a lot of hiring happening, and tech companies in the capital are always looking to recruit from out of town. Chris Curries, City News.
I am Damilola Unime. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Connecting you and your community. This is the Sam Laprade Show on City News
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Thank you so much for spending time with us here on Tuesday, January the 24th. I'm Sam Laprade. We have a very busy show for you today. We're going to get caught up with our City News weather specialist, Denise Andriachi, a little bit from now to talk about the weather that's coming our way. You'll want to stay with us for that. We're also going to spend some time speaking with the PZAC Regional Executive Vice President for the National Capital Region. We know we've got some breaking news regarding a strike vote that will be taking place about a month from now. We wanted to bring you up to speed on that. And former Mayor Larry O'Brien's going to join us. He's going to talk about what it's like to give that State of the City address and how he prepared for that, and maybe get a little bit of an insight into how Mayor Mark Sutcliffe is preparing. We know that that is coming down tomorrow, an important day in our city. We wanted to spend some time today with Al Hall, an author. How are you, Al?
It's Allie. Sorry,
Allie, thank you so much for correcting me. I appreciate that. Let's talk a little bit about your book. I understand you have got a book releasing in March.
Yes, it's called As Far As You Can Go Before You Have to Come Back. And it's a travel story about a young traveler who's actually traveling because she's running away from home because she's being sexually abused.
And tell me where this idea came from, Allie.
Well, I'm a survivor, and I spent 3 years living in Asia, and so when I decided to write a book, it was only natural that I set it there, because why would I set it in some boring American city when I could set it in, Malaysia and Thailand and then Japan, which is where she travels.
Interesting. And tell us a little bit about your history, Allie.
My history as it was abuse.
Yeah, in terms of how you sort of came to the point where you would write this book. I
see. Okay, so I was I lived in Japan for 3 years, and in the course of that 3 years, I began to really understand. I think it was the distance from my family which gave me the perspective on it, and I really began to put together how being abused as a child really had affected me. As a child, you just accept it. It's like, this is just what happens in your family. And as an adult, you realize, oh, that doesn't happen in everybody's family. And so I did not think of writing a book at all in any ways until I had been working on the issue personally for about 5 years, and then suddenly, and I was working as a freelance journalist, and then suddenly I just had this idea for the book. It just popped in my head,
And I know you
followed it.
And I know this is an important month as well, and I know you've got some interest in the fact that it's Cervical Health Awareness Month, and you wrote a very important essay there. So you're trying to get your message out through word.
Yeah, well, what happened to me as an incest survivor, you really cut off from your body. You're not in it. And I actually, unfortunately, ended up with an STD called condyloma, and it's a precursor to cervical cancer in some ways. It's not a precursor in that your body creates it. It's a disease you get. So that's good. So you have to have them treated. So, charm alert, you have to have them burned off your vagina, and it's really painful. So that happened, and then I was on the table, and the OB said, would you like to see your cervix? And I wasn't completely sure where my cervix was. And so I looked into the speculum again, which was still inside my vagina, and I saw this, like this button-sized pink thing with like one horizontal and one vertical slit, and it was like smiling at me, and I connected with my body. I was like back in my body, really, for the first time, I think, since my entire childhood. And I thought it was just beautiful and adorable, and I just giggled, and I didn't expect that, of course. And really? I just think, I know a lot of moms now. I'm a mom too, and we teach our children to look at their private parts, like give them a mirror and leave them in the room by themselves, because it's such a connecting situation to be like, this is me. This is where I exist. I go all the way from my head, go right through my private parts to my feet. Because when I was growing up, you skipped that, especially if you're being abused.
Right. I really appreciate you sharing your story today, Ali. Thanks so much. I appreciate it very much.
Well, thank you for having me. Ali
Hall joining us today, an author. Appreciate her time today. We wanted to spend some time today with Denise Andriacci, our City News weather specialist. Hi, Denise.
Good morning. How are you?
Well, I'm good. What's coming our way, Denise? I'm going to say that I'm good right now, but how am I going to be tomorrow and Thursday?
Well, I mean, I have to say that you'll be doing some shoveling for sure, but I think the kids will have some fun because we haven't had, it hasn't been a super snowy winter so far, and temperatures have been so mild, but we're in a snow zone for this upcoming system here in Smiths Falls and Ottawa, and Environment Canada issued these special weather statements on Sunday. That's the confidence and the certainty. We've been watching this system play out on the models, and it's an area of low pressure. It's known in the weather world as a Texas low, and these types of areas of low pressure, just the track where they originate and then the track towards the Great Lakes, they tend to pick up a lot of moisture from the Gulf of Mexico. So this is a heavy snow system, and 10 to 15 centimeters are expected. And again, these special weather statements are pretty widespread. Let's break down the timing of this, though, because it is really going to be more of an impact tomorrow evening. The drive home is going to be very tricky, and that snow is very steady through the entire evening tomorrow, overnight, and then even into Thursday morning. So areas in southwestern Ontario may not see school bus cancellations Thursday morning, but I think, areas around Ottawa, don't be surprised if we do have some school bus cancellations. Can't say for certain, but we are looking at about a centimeter an hour. And again, this is going to begin mid to late afternoon Wednesday, and then it starts off as some scattered flurries, but by the evening, it really gets going. So this is a good hardy snow system for us here.
I know there's a lot of kids in the middle of exams, Denise, that are hoping for a snow day. But we'll have to watch, obviously, to see what happens in terms of transportation. Have we had an easy winter, Denise, or is it just my imagination? I know we've had, obviously, just before Christmas, that big storm. We had another in January, but it feels like an easy winter. Is it just my imagination?
No, you're right. I mean, January, I'll probably talk about this more in February because we're still in the month of January. But when we look back at January, I think one thing to note specifically for Ottawa and Smiths Falls is the mild temperatures. It's been really mild. We've had very little in terms of cold. I would say we've trended above or at seasonal. So it's been easy when it comes to temperatures. And although Ottawa has seen more snow than, let's say, southwestern Ontario, for instance, the GTA, it's still been relatively calm and quiet so far this winter, but now we're going to be impacted sort of by an active weather trend. I mean, we've seen a few flurries through the overnight and earlier today. It's been nothing major, of course, but I would say the pattern is somewhat active as we're wrapping up the month, but that's just going to be with flurries. The big snow is really going to be this system. But yes, it has been relatively calm. And of course, right around the holidays, we were impacted. And then things just seem to settle down beyond that. We've had some snow a couple of times here and there, some shots of snow. I would say roughly 10 to 15 centimeters has been the range. And that's what we're looking at again, just that range being around 10 to 15. But we're still a day out. So we could see the special weather statement get upgraded to either winter storm warnings for Ottawa or snowfall warnings. We will wait and see. But I do want to mention that the winds will also be strong with this system. So it won't just be the accumulation on the roads, but the concern, especially in quieter areas, will be the blowing and drifting snow, really affecting visibility.
And let me ask you this, and I don't know if I don't know the answer to this, so I'm curious, is do you know if it's going to be that fluffy snow or if it's going to be that wet heavy snow?
Well, there is a concern about the wetness with this snow, and that's just because temperatures aren't overly cold. So we are going to watch for that. Right now, I think that's more of a risk maybe to the west of Ottawa, to the southwest, but I will say that is a concern just before the temperatures really start to drop off. But it does look like we're going to be more into that that snow that's not really packing a lot of that heavy wetness, because we should hover around -7 tomorrow when things get going. And so that's just more into that, traditional snow zone as opposed to that wet snow.
Really appreciate all that great information. Thank you so much, Denise. We'll be watching very closely and we'll be listening for your updates. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll be watching close too. Everyone stay safe.
Thank you. Denise Andriacci joining us, City News weather specialist. Appreciate her time today. When we come back, we've got big news from PZAC. You're going to want to hear all about it. Stay with us here on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Bum, 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 bum.
$20. $20. We're on the line for $20.
On the next episode of Simply Cooking by Chef, I'm joined by my friend Neil from Ottawa Valley Meats. Tune in to see what we're grilling up on the barbecue.
My husband is a wonderful man and a great father when he's not drinking. I'm so angry he chooses alcohol over us. If he really loved us, he'd stop drinking, right? My counselor suggested I try Al-Anon. I didn't understand why. I'm not the one with the problem, but I'm glad I went. Do you worry about someone's drinking? You are not alone. Al-Anon or Alateen can help. Call 866-200-0033 or visit alanon.org/hope.
Treaty and creed is Naskometoin, an oral agreement. And our agreements were always spoken. For George Spence, the core of treaty was Wichihioin, to help one another.
And so we, the commissioners...
He was there for the making of Treaty 9, where the Cree were told...
We will honor this agreement together, for as long as the sun shines and the waters flow.
The Cree made their mark because they were assured that the land would be shared and they would always be able to harvest what they needed. George Spence was my great-grandfather. In his life, he saw many promises of the treaty go unfulfilled.
Treaties were essential to the creation of Canada. First Nations still fight for the agreements to be honored.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
My name is Joel Tamas, this is Red Heaven, and we are going to be playing the Encore concert here in Ottawa. I got goosebumps just looking at the lighting and the sound, and it's very exciting to show up at a place like Shankman.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Thank you for spending time with us on City News. We received some breaking news a little while ago in regards to PSAC. We know that they are going to be holding some strike votes. We wanted to get caught up today with Alex Silas. Hi, Alex.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Alex is the PSAC Regional Executive Vice President for the National Capital Region. This news that just broke maybe about 90 minutes ago. Alex, where does all this come from in terms of the strike vote? Was this expected?
Look, we've been in bargaining with the employer for nearly 2 years now. We were clear in our demands on wages, on improvements to telework language, job security, work-life balance language, and creating more equitable workplaces. Our teams have been ready and clear from the beginning, and we would have been more hopeful that the employer would have been ready to really meaningfully negotiate with us on these demands. But they simply weren't ready. So after exhausting every option that we had, we are currently left with the only option left, and that's taking strike votes. And our members are ready to take that action for a fair contract.
And Alex, I'm seeing on the communications that were sent to us that this is a statement from the communications. That's why we've made the difficult decision to hold strike votes for 120,000 hardworking federal public service workers in the program and administrative services, operational services, technical services, and education and library science bargaining groups between February 22nd and April the 19th. We're hearing from other departments as well that they're thinking about action as well. This obviously is an important time for these workers and for Canadians. Do you think we can come to some sort of agreement before then?
Well, yeah, and you add to that the strike votes that are already scheduled for PSAC members at CRA and members at Parks Canada and CFIA negotiations hit the same wall, so they're not far behind. Potentially, we're looking at the largest single union strike in the history of Canada. The last time we did this was 30 years ago in '91. This may be an even larger strike. And look, our goal here is not to go on strike. Our goal is to get a fair contract with fair wage increases for workers in the federal public service and to set a standard for all workers coming out of the pandemic. So if the employer wants to get back to the table with a new mandate, we would love nothing more than to negotiate a fair contract. But we are going to use our right to strike if we need to, and our members are ready to do that.
And more communications through the document that we were sent. This is a quote as well. Unfortunately, Treasury Board is hell-bent on pushing through serious concessions that impact your rights. This is, of course, to your members, including reducing job security and access to some leaves. And their insulting wage offer of 2.06% per year over 4 years is asking more than 120,000 hardworking PSAC members to take a big pay cut. Walk me through this, Alex.
Well, that's exactly it. A wage increase of only 2% basically is the equivalent of a wage cut. If you factor in the cost of living, if you factor in the fact that federal workers have not gotten an increase that keeps up with cost of living in a few rounds of bargaining now, it's been years, and now with where we're at with the skyrocketing cost of living, you feel it at the gas station, you feel it at the grocery store, you feel it on your bills every month. These workers deserve wages that keep up with inflation, and we're fighting to set this standard for workers in the federal public service who have supported Canadians through the pandemic, who will continue to be there for Canadians and will always be there for Canadians. But we're also fighting to set this standard for all workers so that we can ensure a just transition coming out of this pandemic.
Well, and that was going to be my next point, because there's some people listening to the radio right now, Alex, that are saying, boy, I would love work conditions like that. I'm not getting this type of remuneration. I don't have the opportunity to work from home, all of those pieces. Some people are saying this is actually a pretty good deal. What would you say to them?
I would say if you're a worker listening right now, this is your fight too. We are in this fight together. Whether you're working in the federal public service, whether you're working in the public sector, the private sector, we need to come together as workers and fight for a new standard for workers, a new deal, fair wages that keep up with cost of living. When we talk about the PA unit, it's the largest bargaining unit in North America. So that's what we're negotiating right now. So the standard that we set is a standard that we set not only for PSAC members, but it's a standard that we hope to set for all workers coast to coast to coast across Canada.
Mm-hmm. Your communications goes on to say, Alex, that going on strike is never our first choice, and it doesn't mean we'll automatically call one. But securing that strong strike mandate for our memberships shows that we're willing to fight and will give us the leverage we need to reach a fair and decent contract. Do you think the Treasury Board will sit up a bit straighter today?
We hope so. We expect them to, and our members are ready. I hear from PSAC members every day saying that they want to vote now. They want to vote for a strike now. Members are frustrated. They feel insulted by the wage offer. They feel insulted by the employer not being ready at the table to discuss our other demands in terms of work-life balance, creating more equitable workplaces, anti-racism training in the federal public service. So they're ready to vote for a strike. That's where we're at now. We're listening to our members. We're going to be holding strike votes, and we hope that the employer will also listen to these workers and get back to the table. Let's negotiate a fair contract.
How difficult was the pandemic on federal workers?
Well, if you look at, so we're talking about different groups, right? This is an incredibly diverse work group. A lot of PSAC members have been on the front lines all throughout the pandemic, and that hasn't changed. And then for many other PSAC members, they were asked to pivot to working from home. And overnight, practically, they adapted to be able to continue fulfilling all their duties, continuing to support Canadians through the crisis. I'm thinking of things like the implementation of CERB, which happened practically overnight, and it's something that we never thought could be done. PSAC members did that, and they did that all while dealing with the same stressors that all of us had to go through in the pandemic, the frontline stressors, the work from home and isolation stressors. Our members went through all of that, and they deserve a fair contract for the work they do supporting Canadians.
So what's your message to members that might be listening to us right now? Are you wanting them to register to vote, for instance?
Yes, please register to vote for the information town halls. Please register to vote for the strike vote sessions. And my message to members is keep that energy up. We hear you. We're in this fight together, and we're not going to stop fighting until we get a fair contract with fair wages.
Mm-hmm. And let me ask you, when you sort of go down this road, as you indicated, it's been a long time. Is there a point in time where you realize that maybe membership isn't going to go this way, or you just keep moving? Do you feel like you're hearing from members that this is the way they want to go, and you're going to move right through till April?
Absolutely. I mean, we had just to give you an example, we had a town hall last night with almost 2,000 members in attendance just on that one town hall. And the main question that came up during the Q&A was, when can we vote for a strike? So on this one, our members are very much there. and we're listening to our members. We've been listening to our members. The bargaining demands that we brought to the table come directly from the membership, and so we're going to keep pushing for those proposals. We're going to fight for those demands, and our members are there ready to fight with us.
And what's the percentage you get out of 120,000 people? Any sense of what percentage will actually register to vote and go through with voting? Is it 50%? Is it 75? Higher than that?
I think members are very engaged in this round of bargaining. They're definitely engaged around the question of strike. We've successfully gotten really good turnouts at our strike votes in the past. I don't think that'll be any different this time. I think we're going to have a very high turnout and a very high yes vote.
The hybrid work plan that we're all talking about right now, we talk about it from various different angles. Has that been sort of a little bit of a driving force behind all this, as well as wages then?
Look, like I said, a lot of members have been frontline, so let's not forget about them. They've been in the workplace all through the pandemic because of the nature of their jobs. They had to be. But for the workers who had to transition to remote work, they've completely adapted their lives around that. A lot of workers were told that they would stay telework indefinitely. And so they made decisions based on that. A lot of workers were hired based on being permanently in remote work. The nature of how we work has changed. Telework existed before the pandemic. The pandemic has certainly accelerated the implementation of remote work in the federal public service. But the way we work has changed. And so to think that we're going to go back to the before times is just nonsensical. We need to negotiate language that addresses the change in how we work and that prepares the federal public service for the future of work.
Alex, I suspect we'll be speaking a lot in the next few months.
I think so.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Alex Silas joining us today, PZAC Regional Executive Vice President for the National Capital Region. That PZAC strike vote would start on February the 22nd. When we come back, former Mayor Larry O'Brien's going to join us. He's going to talk about what it's like to prepare for that State of the City address. Stay with us here on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Join me for Season 3 of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. Whew, that was a lot. I think I need a nap.
Everybody knows not to drink and drive, but some people still think it's okay to take drugs and drive. Police have the authority, the ability, and the tools to determine if drivers are impaired by legal or illegal drugs. And because drug-impaired drivers can pose just as great a risk as drunk drivers, they face the same penalties, like the loss of their driver's license, a criminal record, fines, and more. A message from the RCMP, the Canadian Association of Chiefs of Police, and Arrive Alive, Drive Sober.
Do you have something to share? Let everyone know about your next meeting, your need for volunteers, or your fundraising event on the Rogers TV Community Billboard. Send us your words and we'll bring them to life on Rogers TV and rogerstv.com. When it's time to spread the word, go to rogerstv.com to add your announcement to the Community Billboard.
Hey, I'm Ash Ravens. I'm a singer-songwriter in Ottawa, Canada. I'm performing this week on Encore Ottawa 3, so please be sure to tune in and hope you enjoy it.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 101.1 everywhere.
It is Tuesday, January 24th. Good morning. I am Damilola Unime. Right now in Ottawa, light snow, a -1. In Smiths Falls, it is 0. And here's what's making news this hour. Ottawa's police chief says resources and staffing plans are in place as the city prepares to mark the one-year anniversary of the start of the so-called Freedom Convoy protest. Chief Eric Stubbs wouldn't reveal details of what police believe is planned, but the fort says it is ready for the possibility that the anniversary could spark another protest. On January 28th and 29th, 2020, thousands of people stormed streets in front of Parliament Hill with trucks and big rigs protesting COVID-19 restrictions and the Liberal government. The noisy and disruptive protest a year ago lasted more than 3 weeks, and Wellington Street in front of Parliament Hill has remained closed to traffic ever since. 120,000 members of the Public Service Alliance Union is set to vote on whether to strike or not. The strike vote is for workers in the program and administrative, operational, technical, and education and library science bargaining groups. The union telling members they have to hold the line on fair wages, protect people from discrimination, and have safe workplaces that take into account work-life balance. The government has offered just over 2% wage increase, which the union says is insulting. The vote is scheduled for February 22nd to April 19th. City News time is 10:31. I am Damilola Unime. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Thank you so much for spending time with us here on City News. When we come back in a little bit, we're going to be speaking with Elliot Tepper. Of course, he joins us here a lot on City News, has his own show now with David Smith hosting The World with Elliot Tepper, Sundays at 9. We're going to be talking about some news out of Ukraine with him. You'll want to stay for that. First of all, we wanted to speak with Larry O'Brien today, of course, former Ottawa mayor. Hello, Larry.
Good morning, Sam.
Welcome back to City News. I think about your time as mayor, I believe elected in 2006. And when I think, Larry, about that first State of the City address that you gave, what was it like to prepare for that? I'm thinking about Mayor Mark Sutcliffe preparing for his address tomorrow.
Well, I think Mayor Sutcliffe has got a pretty simple task in front of him. There's one topic, and only one topic he has to address, and that's LRT. There's no question about it. When I did my preparation for the task force, I was looking at trash. I was interesting enough. We were also talking about transit. We were also talking about taxes. So he only has one issue. And that issue has to be taken on and dealt with immediately. Otherwise, if he doesn't take this on in a very methodical manner, he's going to get into the category of being an accomplice to this mess. So I think his job is going to be pretty straightforward. Come up with his plan of action for the LRT disaster and execute it.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you, what's it like to prepare? Like who's in your ear? Are you, when you look back to when you wrote it, are you writing the words? Is someone giving you a draft? What was it like for you?
Well, for me, it was, 2 or 3 people making sure that, we stayed on message. Most of the writing was done by me. And with obviously editing from the people around, but it's really a political speech. It's not, he has to take input from the bureaucracy, but most of it is about the politics and the promises you've made, and so he's got to address any issues. But like I said before. His job is pretty simple. He's got one priority now because, I think the whole, the province has put money into this. The federal government has put money into this. The citizens of Ottawa have put money in at both levels. He's got to jump on this topic and let the people of Ottawa know that there is a solution. He's going down the path to find a solution.
Mm-hmm. And I think about other topics that were obviously very, very key to probably his win is his stance on taxes. When he talked about the police board, we know there was a big meeting there last evening. Lots of information out of that board meeting. We know as well that he talked a lot about sort of the city as a whole in terms of crime as well. So those are all themes that probably others will be looking for. Is it difficult to try and, at the end of the day, satisfy what everybody's hoping to hear?
No. Actually, on all those topics, Ottawa's Sam. You hit the nail on the head as usual, and but all those topics are pretty easy to deal with in a city like Ottawa. He's made a 2.5% tax promise. And I understand he'll go to the wall on that. He'll make sure that happens. And if he needs to, he will pull out the strong mayor tool if some of the councillors get out of line. So he's got that pretty much covered in terms of public order. Ottawa is probably the safest city around. Yes, we have a little more crime than we used to, but we're still orders of magnitude away from being a problematic a city with major problems in the crime area. So I think those are sort of good-natured, good fun, and I hate to bring it back to it, but the one issue he's got to address if he's going to have a meaningful State of the Union is the transit.
Mm-hmm. It's so interesting you brought up the strong mayor powers, because I think, when Mayor Sutcliffe was asked that question during the mayoral campaign, he said, absolutely not, I'm not going to be using them. And all the candidates said the same thing. Mayor Shirelli said the same thing. Catherine McKenney said the same thing, that they wouldn't use them. Do you think Mayor Mark Sutcliffe will use those strong mayor powers during his term?
I listened to him respond to that question the very first time he was asked that question, and he said he has no intention of using the strong mayor. He never said he wouldn't. He said he had no intention. A very subtle political word to be thrown into that. Now, maybe in later interviews that I was not aware of, he promised he wouldn't use it. But the one time I heard him say that he, talk or address this issue, he very clearly said he had no intention of using the strong mayor, which left the door open. And I think this 2.5% tax raise is appropriate. And I would suspect that if he can't get that through, Sam, that he would. My guess is that he would use it for the best interest of the citizens of Ottawa. And I don't think anyone would begrudge him that tool.
Did you have city councillors in your ear, Larry, as you prepared for your State of the City address?
Most of the time they were screaming in my ear.
Sorry, I didn't mean to react like that. You just caught me off guard.
But it is true. There's no question about it. I only had one or two councillors who were thinking along the same lines as I was, and the rest were very partisan, left wing. I think Mr. Mayor Sutcliffe is in a much better position than I was. I think he's got 13 to 14 councillors that are supporting him on what he's trying to do, and I think I think they might whisper in his ear things that they think are important, and that's a possibility. But remember, he's mayor of all the people in the city, and all the people in the city have one common irritant right now. And I won't go into it again, but I think he's got to address that, because whether you're on the left or on the right or in the middle, we all share this one open sore for the city of Ottawa.
When you think back to your time and maybe even, far back as Mayor Shirelli, and then, of course, we know Mayor Watson, with the term, the Watson Club was used. Was there an O'Brien Club? Was there a Shirelli Club? Do we expect a Sutcliffe Club?
Well, there definitely was a Shirelli Club. There definitely was a Watson Club. And there is a Mark Sutcliffe Club, too. You need that in municipal politics. You need... the mayor, it's a weak mayor model, as you know, and the mayor needs the support of the majority of council for just about everything, and I think he's got that support. and he would only reach into the strong mayor. I believe, and I'm speaking just as a former mayor. I believe he would only reach into the strong mayor toolkit if he had to. I did not have that. I was a novice in politics. I made a bunch of rookie mistakes early. In terms of my relations with my counselors. And so I did not have an O'Brien club. As a matter of fact, I had I didn't have a party. I had a posse behind me for most of the time. And so it was, I'm not going to look at that too hard, but I think he's got support. I think Sutcliffe has support. I know Bob Chiarelli had support, and Watson used. He was a very good politician, probably one of the best politicians we've had in Canada in a long time, and he had his support managed, and that's the nature of that job, Sam.
Some of the tough subjects, that come up are really those motherhood issues. When we think about, things like homelessness, we think about addiction and mental health, and we think about, those subjects that, unless they've touched your own family, Larry, you really don't understand what that's like. How do you think that those should be managed in something like the State of the City address? And you referred to Mayor Sutcliffe as the everybody's mayor. If he's everybody's mayor, he has to be the mayor of somebody that's also found themselves living on the streets.
Yeah, you're right on it. I know your background in that area is very, very strong, and I think he needs. Yeah, I guess he's going to have to. Make sure that everyone understands that the City of Ottawa, which has very strong programs in this area, is going to continue down that path. And he's probably just some words of encouragement to the people that are managing the homeless problem in Ottawa. One of the advantages that we have in the City of Ottawa is that it's very hard to be homeless at this time of year. You need something. That's perhaps the wrong word. Advantages. One of the realities of Ottawa is you can't be homeless in January, February, March. So we need organizations such as the one that you were involved in to provide protection to these people. And as long as the City of Ottawa continues its generous and usually thoughtful contributions in this area, I think he just has to note that we're doing our share for those that are much less fortunate than the majority of your listeners and the majority of the people in Ottawa.
I know the whole police board structure was changed. What was it like when you were mayor? Remind me, Larry.
Well, it depends how you want to look at it. It was pretty easy. I was on the police board for the first few months, but they were doing their thing. They were holding their budgets in line. But it became pretty clear to me fairly early into the process that it was not as functional as it should be. So I was off the board, and there was a couple of very experienced counselors in that area who jumped in and did a fairly good job managing or working with the police to make sure that Ottawa was safe and secure. Remember, at that time, Sam, we didn't, it wasn't as bad as it is now. So for the most part, the citizens of Ottawa were pretty happy with the policing that we got and the level of crime that we had in the City of Ottawa. So it wasn't a real pressing issue.
As a former mayor, how happy were you to hear that the Rideau Street McDonald's was closing?
Well, I happen to live right beside it.
I know that, actually.
And I went in. Yeah. I went in there a few times, and I must admit it was a pretty scary place to go into.
Right.
And I couldn't quite understand how they survived. More than once, I had to. You could cross through it. You could go from Rideau Street back, right through the store to come out on another street somewhere. And I eventually stopped doing that. So I'm happy that particular McDonald's is closed. I think it's going to be safer for the people in Ottawa.
Mm-hmm. Will you be watching Mayor Mark Sutcliffe's State of the City address tomorrow?
Yeah, I think I will. Yeah, absolutely. I think this weekend's little rough ride with, or last week's rough ride with LRT. It's sort of that's the straw that broke my camel's back. I think, that one I found very irritating. And so I'm hoping, along with, I think, the majority of citizens of Ottawa, that he will address that issue and come up with a plan. Because without that heartbeat, without that mass transit system working functionally in the city, we're destined to become a failed city. So I'm hoping he will address that issue in a practical and methodical way.
Appreciate your time always, and I know you can't go get your Happy Meal now, but you sound happy about that. So thank you so much, Larry O'Brien, for joining us today. Former Ottawa mayor, having a really important discussion there about our city's future. When we come back, Elliot Tepper's going to be here. We've got lots to talk with Elliot about. Stay with us here on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Bum, 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 bum.
$20. $20. We're on the line for $20.
On the next episode of Simply Cooking by Chef, I'm joined by my friend Neil from Ottawa Valley Meats. Tune in to see what we're grilling up on the barbecue.
On Tuesday's Daytime Ottawa, we're going to be joined by the Distress Centre of Ottawa and Region, of course, talking about the importance of mental health and some of the great services that they offer through the Distress Centre. We'll introduce you to local singer-songwriter Christine Graves and tell you about her brand new album, and we'll tell you about a major renewal going on at the beautiful Bytown Museum. All that and more on Tuesday's Daytime Ottawa.
Once upon a time, in a nursery rhyme, there were 3 bears. 1, 2, 3 bears. And they went a-walking in the cool woods a-talking while their porridge began.
Rogers TV invites you to let your imagination roam as we present Ottawa Storytellers. Each week we'll present a collection of original creative stories and inspirations for children of all ages. Join us for Ottawa Storytellers on Rogers TV.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
My name is Joel Tamas. This is Red Heaven, and we are going to be playing the encore concert here in Ottawa. I got goosebumps just looking at the lighting and the sound, and it's very exciting to show up at a place like Shankman.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
And you're back on City News. Thanks so much for spending time with us today. I'm Sam Laprade. We have an important conversation to take place today with Elliot Tepper, Distinguished Senior Fellow with Carleton University's Norman Paterson School of International Affairs and contributor, of course, to City News Through the World with Elliot Tepper on Sundays at 9 a.m., hosted by our very own David Smith. Are you having fun with this show, Elliot?
Yes, indeed. It's a great pleasure to be working with David that way, and we get to explore topics in depth, a lot of topics in depth. So yes, I'm quite pleased with the show.
And I think you do such a wonderful job, Elliot, of really bringing the global issues to us and having them sort of make sense to what it means to Canadians. And we know that there's some interesting news out of Ukraine today regarding officials resigning in a corruption scandal. Walk us through this.
Yes, corruption has been a long-standing issue raised by the EU, among others, in terms of their admission, and of course it's now on an accelerated path by the EU. The EU is saying, come in, we want you, we are family. But in order to actually meet the technical requirements of admission to the EU, there are a lot of details. One of those is heavily involved with corruption, and there's been issues of corruption in terms of Ukraine in the past. The war, of course, is changing everybody's perspectives. What's startling about this, Sam, is that it's really a striking number of very senior people across a number of different ministries and frontline governors of Kherson and Zaporizhzhia, among others, and Kherson. These are the frontline states at the moment in terms of, provinces at the moment in terms of dealing with the Russians. They've all been purged.
Wow. I think about President Zelensky. I think he's, really captured the hearts of many people across the world, and in terms of how he's handled this crisis, he must have taken this very hard.
One of the people that he's removing, they are resigning by and large, is a personal advisor and somebody who's been with him a very long time. So, yes, indeed. And remember, they just lost, through a helicopter crash, the senior leadership of the Interior Ministry. So the very important people across the government, one way or another, are being removed. It should be noted that there was an actual arrest, not just, you better resign now, but a deputy infrastructure minister was arrested and accusing of siphoning off $400,000, I'm reading from the Globe here, from contracts to buy generators. And of course, generators have been critical because Russia has been taking out the energy infrastructure. Therefore, generators have been a big ticket item in terms of keeping the country going. So it's really a very high-level purge preceded by an actual arrest. And it's a very strong signal that President Zelensky is very, very serious about doing everything all at once, including dealing even with the closest of friends and people that came with him. Remember, he's an outsider to politics, so he's brought in some people, and some of those are gone now. So it's a major step in the middle of a war in order to prosecute the war going forward.
Well, Elliot, I think about, I've over the years read a lot of leadership books, I'm sure as you have, and when I think about the leadership pieces about the trust that leaders put in their two ICs or put in with people that are close to them, thinking about all of the issues he has to deal with on a daily basis with a war, and then not being able to rely on someone at his right and left hand, that really puts a leader, in a precarious position, because it feels like you can't trust anyone.
Yes, and these were two ICs, the Deputy Defense Minister and so forth. The whole issue of trust now is, I suppose, in a sense, being reinforced, because what he's saying, President Zelensky is saying, I have listened to the people, and the people are worried about corruption, and I'm acting on it. So the trust between the leader and the population is now being, in a sense, put front and center by removal of people who have been accused of corruption. Corruption is a very insidious acid in terms of all countries, in terms of the ability for leaders, in terms of the countries having confidence of the global community. So this is an important step, no doubt about it, right in the middle of the preparations for a spring offensive by Russia, a massive one is anticipated. Sam, maybe we should turn to that for a moment. There's been big breaking news just as we were about to come on air.
Please.
The U.S. apparently according to this report, which is broken by the Wall Street Journal, is now agreeing to send over a substantial number of their Abrams tanks, the leading tank, a battle tank that the U.S. has. This, in turn, will allow Germany to say, okay, you've met what we want. We will now release perhaps a smaller number of tanks, but that in turn frees up Poland and other states in the region to deliver more Leopard tanks to Ukraine. So there's big breaking news in terms of the offensive as well as defensive capability of Ukraine going forward in this war.
Really interesting. Thanks so much for sharing that. We know, I think we spoke last week, Elliot, about that issue about Germany waiting for the U.S. to make their move. And as you just said, they've made their move today.
Apparently. General Austin, Secretary of Defense Austin, said last week after the Ramstein meetings that you and I talked about, well, no, Germany has said there's no linkage. They're not really linking the two. They just have to make their own decisions based on their own needs. But it does seem there's some kind of tacit deal in the making now, combining the release now of major battle tanks flooding into Ukraine in time to perhaps affect a spring offensive.
Mm-hmm. And when we think about the war in Ukraine and the illegal invasion of Russia, who are sort of siding? Who's siding with Russia right now? We're seeing some interesting news about South Africa, for instance.
Yes, this is the BRICS. That's a strange story. Goldman Sachs, the major banking and investment firm, one of their people put out years ago a paper saying that the coming states to keep an eye on in the future will be this acronym BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, and China. You keep an eye on them going forward. Well, those countries then said, yes, why don't we form an organization and made it formal? And now they're talking about expanding it. So yes, Russia is investing heavily, as are other countries, in trying to get Africa on their side, in this case the BRICS as well. The African states are saying, quietly but definitely, these are the European powers that oppressed us, those European states that are fighting, and now you want us to take sides, and we don't want to take sides. And Russia has been exploiting that, and keeping in mind the Wagner Group also has been playing an important role in the internal wars within various states of Africa and gaining control over some of the resources. And apparently they're using the resources, the mining resources, to help fund what they are doing in Ukraine.
Wow.
So what a world we live in, Sam.
I was just thinking the exact same thing, and you always help me really understand all these issues so well. I appreciate your time always, Elliot.
Oh, it's always a pleasure to talk to you, Sam.
Elliot Tepper joining us, Distinguished Senior Fellow, Carleton University's Norman Paterson School of International Affairs, and of course, contributor to City News. And I love tuning in Sunday mornings to hear David Smith and Elliot talk about the world with Elliot Tepper. When we come back, lots of interesting news for you, of course. Wilson Lowe's going to join us. He's the city councillor for Barrhaven East. We're going to ask him about this new police building that's being planned for Barrhaven. Stay with us on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Join me for Season 3 of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. That was a lot. I think I need a nap.
I'm Wendell Clark with a word about winning. We all know it takes a team effort in any sport and with any challenge. You can be a part of the winning team that shuts out impaired driving. Whether you're out on the town or just hanging out with friends, drink responsibly. Always have a plan for a safe ride home for yourself, your family, and your friends. You'll be helping to shut out impaired driving.
Visit ArriveAlive.org to find out more. Arrive Alive. Drive sober.
Here we go. Hey, going back in, okay?
It's a new season of The New Fly Fisher on Rogers TV.
Hey, I'm Ash Ravens. I'm a singer-songwriter in Ottawa, Canada. I'm performing this week on Encore Ottawa 3, so please be sure to tune in and hope you enjoy it.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
City News.
CIWW 1310 AM in Ottawa.
And CJET 101.1 FM in Smiths Falls and the Valley. Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 101.1 everywhere.
It is Tuesday, January 24th. Good morning. I am Damilola Unime. Right now in Ottawa, light freezing rain, -1. In Smiths Falls, it is 0. And here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. Another snowstorm is set to barrel down on Ottawa tomorrow into Thursday. City News weather specialist Denise Andreacci telling the Sam Laprade show that we could expect at least 1 centimeter of snow an hour.
You know, it hasn't been a super snowy winter so far, and temperatures have been so mild, but we're in a snow zone for this upcoming system here in Smiths Falls and Ottawa. And Environment Canada issued these special weather statements on Sunday. That's the confidence and the certainty.
And now the weather forecast for today for Ottawa and the Valley. Here is City News weather specialist Denise Andreacci again.
Mostly cloudy with some scattered flurries today. We're not seeing too much in terms of accumulation. That really happens tomorrow, where we could see up to 20 centimeters. Now, this will mainly be affecting us later on in the day. We are going to have periods of snow early on, but certainly the second half of Wednesday, overnight and into Thursday is the steadiest of snow here for Ottawa. And then behind the system, we do clear out, but we get quite cold. -16 Thursday night. Overnight tonight, -10.
City News time is 11:01. The federal cabinet is continuing a 3-day cabinet retreat with spending priorities and a possible new healthcare deal as the key topics at the table today. City News parliamentary reporter Cormac McSweeney has more.
On his way into day 2 of this retreat, Associate Finance Minister Randy Boissonnault says it's going to be a turbulent and uncertain year for the Canadian economy. But the Edmonton MP insists the government still has some spending room for big priorities, including a new health care deal with the provinces.
It's our job to balance all those things and to make sure that we're clear with Canadians that there's fiscal capacity.
A recent report from the Business Council of Canada and Bennett Jones warned that the Liberals' fiscal forecast laid out in the last budget and fall economic statement is likely too rosy, with a recession possibly on the horizon. Premiers have been demanding a meeting with the Prime Minister to come to an agreement on that new health funding arrangement. But while there has been progress recently at the table, a date for the meeting has not been set. Cormac McSweeney, Parliament Hill.
And a number of large tech companies have recently slashed their workforce. So, is Ottawa's tech sector experiencing the same? City News reporter Chris Curris has the story.
It's currently not bad. Invest Ottawa is still working with a wide variety of companies, and hiring is happening.
And I don't think we should be spooked by this. I think we have a very strong tech capability in Ottawa. Let's just keep moving forward.
CEO Michael Tremblay tells City News that does create opportunity because talent matters. And when there are disruptions, there's new opportunities that can be pursued. He says that's what happened in the early 2000s when the telecom bubble burst and then a number of new tech companies emerged. Chris Curry's City News.
City News time 11:03. The Montfort Hospital is set to start transferring patients waiting for alternative level of care to a dedicated 20-bed unit at Beacon Heights retirement residence. The hospital says the decision to relocate patients who no longer require acute hospital care will help free up beds for others waiting to be admitted. The hospital says the transfer will allow the patients to benefit from living in an environment that is better suited for their current health needs. Physicians from the hospital will continue to provide care to the patients at Beacon Heights. I am Damilola Unime. For News Anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
And we're back with the Sam Laprade Show. I'm Sam Laprade. We wanted to get caught up today with Wilson Lowe. Hi, Wilson.
Hi. Hi, Sam.
It's great to have you here. City Council for Barrhaven East. Big news yesterday regarding the police building in Barrhaven. What are your thoughts on this building? I understand it's going to be over about $170 million to build this.
I think it's going to benefit the community because during the campaign, I heard a lot of residents speak about the increasing traffic violations, the petty crimes, and as well as car theft that have just been at an absurd level in Barrhaven. So having that police presence in Barrhaven will certainly help improve that. But on the other side, on the more fiscal side about operations, this south facility will also replace two aging facilities that are no longer financially viable to continue to maintain, as well as replace two locations that we're currently leasing out.
And so, it seems like a lot, obviously, to the average taxpayer, over $170 million to build a building. Why was it increased $60 million, Wilson?
To my understanding, the increase came from the increased cost of material and labor during the pandemic. You'll recall that this was shelved in 2020. I think 2020 or 2021 because of that. So the increased budget actually came out of something that was altered in the budget, I believe, which is going to become a part of the facility. So and there were also some development charges added to it.
And walk us through the location, what the plan is.
The location is Prince of Wales, the east side of Prince of Wales Drive, south of Strandherd, north of the Jock River. So it's right beside Carlton Lodge for people who are familiar with that area. Right now, it's a vacant city-owned lot. In terms of the plans, it's a 3- and 2-story building. So part of it is 3 floors, the other part is 2 floors. With going to include a collision center, a space where another city department can one day hopefully join and kind of create a community hub out of it, so it's not just a police station.
And give us a sense of the 2 locations then would be dismantled.
The first location is the existing police station at Bank and Leitrim. Some of the concerns raised by the police service is that in the future there's going to be a lot of construction in the area, including a very likely resurfacing, rehab, or reconstruction of Bank Street. I'm not too sure which one yet. That's going to make dispatching vehicles out of that location very difficult. The other location is the former Nepean Police Services building on Greenbank Road across the metro north of Hunt Club. And similar to the Leitrim building, that's also quite old and a little too small for the operational needs of the police right now.
And, in terms of the fiscal side of this, we know that, it's been a challenging number of years. We know we're hoping to hold the line of what Mayor Mark Sutcliffe is hoping to do, which is that no more than 2.5%. Does this fall within that? Are we asking for the taxpayers for any more money?
No, this falls within the 2.5% that that the budget directions has set for the police service as well. And we're also, this is also being passed with the caveat that it's not a blank check. There's not going to be more funding that's going to come for this facility, so that it's not a blank check, so that you can't just put whatever you want into that building, basically.
Mm-hmm. And I would think that this is just Ottawa taxpayers. There's no federal funding here. There's no provincial funding. Am I right on that?
I believe so, yeah.
So, this is something that, of course, people are thinking about. A lot of opposition yesterday. We heard from different people in regards to the budget and thinking that those monies could be spent better in their mind, better in different areas. What are your thoughts?
I think they have a point short term, but in terms of long term, in terms of our long term fiscal outlook, to continue maintaining 2 older buildings, plus continue leasing out 2 facilities, I should say, elsewhere in the city, I don't think is responsible. I think it's the more fiscally responsible thing to do if we are looking at helping improve both the operation and the fiscal performance of our police service, to kind of consolidate operations into one facility and one new facility at that meets modern requirements, that meets the environmental demands on buildings today, the certifications and all that, and just the needs of two growing communities, because you have Barrhaven and Riverside South, which combined are almost approaching the population of Kingston.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, interesting that you mentioned that. Actually, I back in the day, a long time ago, Wilson, I used to be the executive assistant to the mayor of Nepean, and we used to say that we were, a city that demanded its own sort of services. Of course, they were all separate cities at the time, but that has grown so much over time, and particularly the Barrhaven area. What are you seeing in terms of growth there?
There's not much in terms of my ward, in terms of hard growth, I guess, if you want to call it that. Most of the growth right now is in my two neighboring wards. Is in Barrhaven West, which is Councillor Hill's ward, and Riverside South in the Creek, which is Councillor DeRoche's ward. But all of that growth, all the pressures from that growth is funneling through my ward, because we have Greenbank Road, which needs its realignment at some point. That traffic continues to flow on Longfield, Strandherd, and Woodruff. And then we have a lot of the traffic that's loaded from Steve DeRoche's ward into my ward through reference Wales. So I'm imagining that Stage 2 LRT would help alleviate some of that. Mm-hmm. But in terms of the traffic load, the demand on services that are now stretched out of my ward or from my ward, there's certainly a heavier load upon those services.
We heard yesterday as well, Councillor Lowe, from our new police chief, of course, Eric Stubbs. Well, let's hear what he had to say.
So I've met with the officer in charge of the precinct, and certainly, I don't think a decision is being made imminently, but we are the police of jurisdiction for that whole area, for the roads, for the buildings that are, in that area. But obviously, we're working, I think, very well with that organization, that agency right now. And if they are expanded, we're going to work with them. So it's all about the detail, it's all in the details as well too, on what their expansion might look like and how we're involved in that. But all I can say is this: we're going to work with the parliamentary precinct very closely, as we have in particular the last year.
And when I think about this, Councillor, and coming up on the anniversary of the convoy, is the convoy on your mind, even though you weren't at the table at the time? Are you still thinking about this upcoming milestone?
Yes, I'm thinking about it in how it affected so many downtown residents for the months that they were downtown. Even though, in many ways you can say it didn't really directly affect Barrhaven, but it did. There were people who had to adjust their travel plans to avoid downtown because of it, especially those who were on transit, those who might just have general anxieties about events like that. So it is on my mind, and as we approach that year anniversary, I'm hoping that I know that our services are going to be prepared to avoid a repeat of that event.
Mm-hmm. Councillor Lowe, I have to ask you: Are you enjoying the first few months of office? Is this what you expected of the role?
Yes, I am, actually. I think I've settled relatively comfortably into the role, as comfortable as I could be. I worked with city councillors in the past in my previous role with OC Transpo when I managed their communications. So I came into this with a relatively tempered expectation of what this role entails. Right, I didn't kind of come in with guns drawn, ready to stir things up, but I came in ready to work with my colleagues, work with city staff to help improve the community, and I think I'm at least on my way to achieving that.
Oh, we're having some technical problems with Councillor Wilson Lowe's line. We'll see if we can get him back for the last minute or so. My producers will try and do that. An important conversation today with City Councillor Wilson Lowe regarding that new police building in Barrhaven, and we've touched on lots of other topics. So you're enjoying the new role, Councillor?
Yes, I am.
Which is great. One thing just to ask you before we go today, of course, that important, city address tomorrow, the State of the City by Mayor Mark Sutcliffe. What are you hoping to hear from Mayor Sutcliffe tomorrow?
I'm hoping to hear his I'm hoping to hear that he recognizes some of the financial hardships that we are going to be facing in the next little while, both on the city side and from our residents, that we are going to be more responsible with how we spend our residents' money, as well as more collaborative in listening to our residents for their ideas of how we can improve the way we manage our services, how we provide those services, all while spending their money responsibly.
Appreciate your time today. Thank you so much, Councillor.
Thank you very much.
City Councillor Wilson Lowe joining us today, representing Barrhaven East, talking about that new police building. The price tag, over $170 million. The location, right on Prince of Wales near Carlton Lodge. We'll be following that story, of course, very closely. Well, we're going to take a little road trip. Here we go. We're going to go all the way to beautiful Deep River and speak with their mayor, Mayor Suzanne Dion. You're going to wonder why. Stay with us here on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Bum, 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 bum. $20. $20. We're on the line for $20.
On the next episode of Simply Cooking by Chef, I'm joined by my friend Neil from Ottawa Valley Meats. Tune in to see what we're grilling up on the barbecue.
It was my daughter's birthday. She was blowing out the candles on her cake when we heard coming from the TV. So we stopped and listened, and it helped us get to safety. That's why when I think of my daughter's birthday, because now she gets to keep having them.
I'm not special. Cancer happens to people all the time. I take 1 mile at a time, 26 miles a day. I want to set an example that'll never be forgotten. Sometimes, it feels endless. But the pain I feel is nothing. I've seen little kids in so much pain. Somewhere, the hurting must stop.
Terry Fox ran more than halfway across Canada to raise money for cancer research. Every year, millions of people around the world continue the marathon of hope in his name.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
My name is Joel Tamas. This is Red Heaven, and we are going to be playing the Encore concert here in Ottawa. I got goosebumps just looking at the lighting and the sound, and it's very exciting to show up at a place like Shankman.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
And we're back on City News. We love taking road trips. We're heading down we'll go down the 417. Then we're going to take the 17 all the way to Deep River to connect with Mayor Suzanne Dion. How are you, Mayor?
Hi, Sam. I'm great. Thank you very much.
You decided to put your hat in the ring for another term, and you've been elected again for the next 4 years. How does that feel?
Oh, it feels pretty good. I was acclaimed, and I'm happy to be back here, back with Deep River, serving the people and with our great council.
Thanks.
And we understand that Deep River has been named the 4th best place to live in Canada, Mayor. How did you feel about that?
Yeah, we're really pleased and super grateful, actually, to be recognized again by movingwaldo.com, which is one of the bigger moving companies in Canada. They've recognized us, I think, a rating based on things to do, affordability, and safety. And so we're super happy to be recognized again by them. And our community is really proud. There are all kinds of sharing of that article, and they're pretty proud about it.
That's fantastic. We see number 1 is Edmundston, New Brunswick, number 2 being Saguenay, Quebec, number 3 being Levi's, Quebec, and then, of course, Deep River, Ontario. What a beautiful picture they've used as well. Population, of course, just over 4,000. The average cost of a home sitting at $370,000, so an affordable place to live.
Yeah, for Ontario, that is quite affordable. I think a couple years ago we were actually rated number 1, and we were a little more affordable. So I expect that the affordability factor might have adjusted us a bit. So yeah, we have a lot to do in town. I think, Sam, you're from there, or you grew up near there. So you know there's lots for residents to do. We're small but kind of mighty. We're a little secret, as the article said, at the upper end of the Ottawa Valley.
Absolutely. I spent grade 2 to grade 8, and we lived in the Mountain View subdivision and participated in so many of those activities that Deep River has to offer. My favorite was my parents used to put my cross-country skis on at our back door, and I used to slide down the steps and out and just ski around the neighborhood. So that was definitely something I really enjoyed. Let's talk a little bit about Deep River and really what has happened over the pandemic. Did you see any change to Deep River during the pandemic?
Well, we saw more people moving in, as I think was a fairly common phenomenon. People were looking to maybe find a house and they to afford, or they maybe wanted to get out of the city. So certainly our real estate is used up. We're actually, we barely have a lot left, like a single lot. So we're actually working with local developers and our town to put some more real estate in place. We're happy to be a small, sustainable town, but we do need a little bit more tax base to support our infrastructure, because we do have a fairly substantial amount of infrastructure to keep running, both from recreational facilities, but also our underground infrastructure. And I'm actually calling you from Toronto, the Rural Ontario Municipal Association conference, where we get to meet provincial ministries and things like that. So we're talking all about infrastructure and also, mental health, safety, housing. Attainable housing is a big topic. So we have all of those challenges too, locally, but on a sort of more micro scale. So we're down here speaking to our provincial counterparts and hoping to get some of that support.
Is it hard? Is it hard to get the attention of ministers when you're a population of just over 4,000, Mayor?
To be frank, it is, and it has been, but the recent articles from Moving Waldo and the recognition has helped, certainly. And so we've tried to make the most of that, because we have people that want to move there, and we just need a bit of assistance to make sure our infrastructure can support that. So it is a challenge generally of small municipalities. I think there's 444 municipalities in Ontario, and sort of 400 of them are smaller. So, but we are, as a small town, certainly positioned to take some of the growth or some of the population that's going to be coming to the province in the next 10 years. So we appreciate the province thinking of us and trying to help us.
And Suzanne, when it comes to employers, we know Chalk River, of course, the nuclear plant there would be a big employer. Who else are your big employers?
Well, Chalk River Labs for sure, and they bring employees from all over the world. So as a result, we have quite a diverse population, because we have specialty scientists that come here from different places, and might have a specialty in zirconium, and they get attracted to work at Chalk River Labs. Also Garrison Petawawa. And the phenomenon that we've kind of seen with internet and the pandemic is we also have people working remotely. So as long as you can give them reasonable speed access to internet, that they can work remotely. So we have seen an influx of that as well.
Are you getting ready for any big festivals this summer?
Well, we had our big summer festival last summer, and that's biannual, so not this summer, but our winter carnival is starting in another week. Our rec staff are just finishing our skating trail, which is we started in the pandemic, and it's proved very popular. It's sort of a 1 kilometer skating trail through fields and forest, and so people are waiting for that to open, which should be imminent, and the winter carnival coming up. So, and also to put a plug in for the Ontario Winter Games, which are starting mostly based out of the town of Renfrew, starting in early February as well. So we'll have athletes from all over Ontario in the county.
Oh, that'll be so much fun. I know how hard they've worked on that and all the challenges that they've faced. So thank you so much for reminding us of that important event as well. What are some of the projects that you have in mind? I know you were mentioning sort of when it comes to building, you have those development charges, but if you don't have that new building happening, it's hard to create any new infrastructure. But is there any big project you have that you want to accomplish?
Well, both our sewer and water systems we're working on, water piping and sewer capacity. We've got lots of water capacity, so we can support development. We're also down here working on, at Roma, advocating for a community center expansion. So we have so many clubs, and in particular, one of the largest seniors active Seniors Friendship Club is huge and very thriving, but they're always looking around for a different place to go to meet. And so we don't really have a community center per se, which is kind of unusual in a town like ours. We've got lots of specialty things, but no real space apart from sort of a library or a high school gym. So that's one of the things we're down here advocating for.
Absolutely. I appreciate your time today. Thanks for sharing everything about Deep River, and enjoy your time in the Big Smoke.
Thanks, Sam. Always a pleasure to connect with you.
Thank you so much. Mayor Suzanne Dion joining us today, the mayor of Deep River. The other notable locations that are getting the votes for best places to live in Canada, one is Trenton, Nova Scotia. That's number 5. Number 6 is Quebec City, Quebec. I completely understand. Beautiful place there. Number 7 is Thetford Mines in Quebec. Lots of places in Quebec. High River, Alberta is number 8. And number 9 is Barrie, Ontario. And coming in at number 10, Wellington County in Ontario. Appreciate her time today sharing about all the beautiful things that Deep River has to offer. Of course, coming in number 4. Lots to talk about today. We're getting ready for the lunch today. Larry Hill's going to be here. Sylvie Begraw's going to be here. We know you're going to be here. Lots of big topics. Lock it in to City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Join me for Season 3 of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. Whew, that was a lot. I think I need a nap.
For 25 years, you've been helping to make our roads safer by doing the right thing. You've been the designated driver, you've stayed over, called home, you've called a cab or a friend, and planned ahead. Let's keep doing the right thing. Support sober driving by getting yourself and your friends home safely.
Do the right thing.
Visit ArriveAlive.org to find out more. Arrive Alive. Drive sober.
At Celebrate Ottawa, we love showing you something a little different. We showcase remarkable people highlighting the city's diversity in arts, culture, sports, and nature. We will show you features that prove Ottawa is a vibrant and exciting city. We'll entertain you and we'll even teach you new things. Join me, your host, Lila Grine, as we explore and celebrate Ottawa.
Hey, I'm Ash Ravens. I'm a singer-songwriter in Ottawa, Canada. I'm performing this week on Encore Ottawa 3, so please be sure to tune in and hope you enjoy it.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
It is Tuesday, January 24th. Good morning. I am Damilola Unime. Right now in Ottawa, under a special weather statement, it is 0, also the same temperatures in Smiths Falls. And here's what's making news this hour. Working from home is very important for most Canadians, especially women. That's according to a new survey by Abacus Data. 72% of the women polled say the flexibility of working from home is extremely or quite important to them. The survey shows overall more Canadians want to work from home at least 58% of the time. And even for new employees, when the poll compared things like salary to working from home, many of them chose to work from home. And the Competition Bureau of Canada is seeking to overturn the Competition Tribunal's decision approving Rogers' $26 billion takeover of Shaw. The matter goes before the Federal Court of Appeal in Ottawa today and is set to run a single day. In its appeal filings, the Competition Bureau alleges the tribunal made 4 legal errors centered largely around how the proposed sale of Shaw's Freedom Mobile to Videotron was factored into the decision. A decision date on the appeal has not yet been set as the extended January 31st date of the Rogers Shaw deal approaches, and Rogers is the parent company of this radio station. One Pembroke resident is facing multiple criminal code charges for a series of shoplifting incidents. Police started investigating the shoplifting incidents at a large retail store in Laurentian Valley Township after a first one happened on January 10th. 3 incidents followed on the 12th, the 18th, and the 22nd. The accused, Matthew Michael Kernio, was located in the vicinity of the store and taken into custody on Sunday. He's charged with 4 counts of theft under $5,000, 16 counts of failure to comply with probation, and 1 count of mischief. Kernio is scheduled to appear in court today. City News Time is 11:31. I am Damilola Unime. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, anybody with a mortgage is holding their breath a little bit. Tomorrow is going to be an interesting day. The Bank of Canada is expected to make some sort of move in terms of the interest rate. We wanted to get caught up today with Ken Decker, president of Ottawa Real Estate Board, to get his thoughts. Welcome to the show, Ken.
Well, thank you.
We have seen the Bank of Canada, of course, make some very big moves over the last year or so. Any idea of what to expect tomorrow, Ken?
Well, there's rumors that they were going to just leave it alone. Others are saying, no, we're going to see another rate increase. If we do, I think if I was a guessing person, I would say maybe 0.25% as opposed to some of the 0.5% raises we've seen in the past. It's really taking the wind out of the sails for the real estate market based on interest rates and having come up the last 6 months at a very quick pace. And the truth is, it takes probably 8 months to a year for an interest rate hike to start affecting inflation, which is what they're trying to curb.
Mm-hmm. It's so interesting because the market has changed so much, Ken. We think about, close to 3 years ago, we think about the April, May, June of 2020 and what that market was like. And it feels pretty opposite to that today. We know that, people trying to sell a home right now, it's staying on the market for 30 days roughly. How challenging has it been for real estate agents right now?
Well, certainly, volume of sales has decreased significantly. We have more inventory than we did, say a year ago. We still don't have huge amounts of inventory like we would normally carry in a balanced market, say 5-6 years ago. But the demand has dropped off significantly, and it's all based on affordability and interest rates. And I think maybe, hindsight's 2020. I think maybe if the government had raised the interest rates sooner during the pandemic, it would have cooled the real estate market slightly, and we might not have had to see such high rates so fast. But I know that real estate is only a small portion of the economy, but still a significant piece.
So Ken, let me ask you this, when you're working with people, are they opting maybe to try and rent as opposed to sell and maybe say, okay, we're going to sell in a couple of years when the market bounces back?
Yeah, what I'm seeing is there's still a huge demand. People want to buy a property. It's still the Canadian dream to own your own home. But what we're finding is more people are either renting, or even more likely is they're moving back with parents. We're seeing multi-generational families buying homes. They're doing whatever it takes to get a property, or like I say, moving back with family and saving diligently for the down payment money. The interest rates today are not ridiculous. They're quite good. The problem is the real estate values have increased over the last 3 years more than they normally would, and people's salaries have not kept pace. So now that the interest rates are up, the affordability is down. So people either have to adjust their ideals. They have to buy a smaller house or a condo instead of a freehold, or they need to buy in a rural property and drive, or as people are working more and more from home, it's not quite as bad to live remotely as long as you got high-speed internet. So they're making different choices. I'm seeing people, like I said, families where a daughter and a mother will buy a house together, both adults, and both coming together to afford to buy a property.
Mm-hmm. Don't give my mother any ideas, Ken. Let me ask you this. When we think about people that get that pre-approval, for instance, how long are those pre-approvals for? And is that, a little bit comforting when we know that potentially we'll see a hike tomorrow?
Yeah, for sure. And I think the pre-approvals are great. Different lenders have different lengths that they're willing to lock in a rate for. And I've seen that, as the rates started increasing very rapidly, the banks were making their pre-approvals for even shorter amounts of time because they don't want to come out on the short end either.
Mm-hmm.
Some people went variable. Those people are, finding it a little bit tough now with the increases of the rates. But the people that locked in, a year ago or 8 months ago when prices were higher, they paid more. But if they locked in at a super low rate for 5 years, for instance, they've got a lower monthly payment than someone buying today at the, it's not significant, maybe $100, $200, depends on the property. But the people buying today at the lower prices after they've come down since our high of February and March are paying still more than the person that paid that higher price at the lower interest rate.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Are you seeing any sort of areas of town that are becoming hot? Like, I remember a day where you maybe didn't buy anything in Hittenburg because it was kind of a scary place. It's been completely revitalized now, and that's a really hot place to live. Are you seeing anything else like that, Ken?
Well, Ottawa's always a micro market. One area may be doing well and another area is suffering, and sometimes it's a type of property. Like there's in the heydays of 2 years ago, you couldn't buy a townhouse. You had to throw, we used to laugh and say you have to back up the money truck to be able to buy a townhouse because they're in such demand. Now there's lots of them. So it doesn't matter whether you want to buy in Orleans or Barrhaven or, Canada, you're going to find townhouses to choose from. So that's good. But where I'm seeing some heat still is surprisingly more rural, like out in Prescott or Cardinal or Brockville, where properties have a more affordable price point. And so I think more people are doing that drive, and we're still seeing some multiple offers on properties there, whereas in Ottawa it's very, very rare now.
It's interesting. We just spoke with the mayor of Deep River, Suzanne Dion, and they were voted the fourth best place to live in Canada, and really affordable there. You can get a house for $370,000, and we're seeing those communities like Carleton Place as well sort of benefit from the pandemic in a way, and in terms of affordability as well.
Yeah, and it's the working from home, and I think we saw an outflux of people from the dense parts of the city during the pandemic where they didn't want to be in tight proximity. It was no fun to be locked down in a small condo apartment, for instance, as opposed to being, I live in Manotick and being locked down here. I still got streets I can walk on. I've got a half-acre property. I can do things. It wasn't quite as bad for me being locked down because we were kind of outdoors as well.
Mm-hmm. Can we talk about Manotick for a second? Because I just moved to Richmond. So I just moved there maybe about 8 weeks ago. I'm loving it. I love Richmond. I spent a lot of time in Manotick. Manotick has just got these really interesting sort of community, even though it's, not a big place, there really is these pockets of very different housing. What are you expecting for Manotick? Are you expecting more growth? Where would we grow there?
Yeah, well, all our growth is in the area back around where Minto has some land, and water and sewer went into that area. So they're still building fairly luxury homes and on decent-sized lots, but they're much smaller than, say, the estate lots that Manotick's kind of famous for. And then, like you said, you've got some older properties that are not quite as big, maybe a third acre on the island, and now they are on water and sewer. So there's a real mix, and there's a lot of properties that you can walk to the, the restaurants, pubs, and the whatever. So the downtown core of Manotick is a fun place, for a small community, and it's very, very pretty as well with the mill and the river going through. Manotick is a lot.
Yeah. Sorry, I interrupted you. I was just going to ask, do you think at some point that Riverside South and Manotick will sort of meet? They'll be kissing in the middle there.
Oh, absolutely. And Barrhaven, too. Barrhaven's coming on the one side and Riverside South on the other. And I think at some point we'll be kind of swallowed up. We're only... It takes me 7 minutes from my home to get into Barrhaven, or 10 minutes to Riverside South to the amenities there. So it's, if you're in the city, it takes you 10 minutes to get just about anywhere anyways.
It's true. Yeah, for sure. I find even in Richmond, to be honest with you, I thought, that's going to feel like a really far place. It doesn't. It feels nice and close. I think everything's just becoming closer together, to be honest, Ken. How do you spend your morning tomorrow? We know the Bank of Canada rate will come out usually at about 10 o'clock if they have some sort of announcement. How will you spend that time? Are you holding the hands of people trying to actually to buy real estate in this city, or are you sort of sitting back and waiting to see what happens?
Well, we just sit back and see what happens. If anybody is actively looking and they want to buy and close on a property in the next 30 to 90 days, they should be locked in now. And if they're not, they should be calling their bank or their mortgage broker and locking in. Especially if they have a desire to go to, say, a 5-year locked-in rate or something. If they're going variable, it doesn't matter because, if they locked in with a variable rate today and the rates go up tomorrow, their variable rate's going up. So, and it's probably I don't know, I don't have a specific stat, but I think it's somewhere about 30% of Canadians choose variable rates as opposed to locked-in rates. And there's different reasons for picking it other than just the rate.
Mm-hmm. Really interesting conversation today. We're going to be following very closely 10 o'clock tomorrow morning here on City News and following that announcement from the Bank of Canada. We know you'll be watching as well, Ken.
Absolutely.
I appreciate your time today.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Ken Decker joining us today, president of the Ottawa Real Estate Board. Boy, they have seen lots of changes, especially over the last 3 years, and we're going to be watching very closely, of course, in terms of that potential interest rate hike. We've been hearing people say, like Ken said, there's going to be no change at all. We've been hearing 25 basis points, and we've heard the odd person say 50 basis points. So we're watching very closely. When we come back, we're taking a look back. Ben Wise from the Historical Society of Ottawa is going to be here to talk a little Bytown. Stay with us here on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Bum, 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 bum. $20. $20. We're on the line for $20.
On the next episode of Simply Cooking by Chef, I'm joined by my friend Neil from Ottawa Valley Meats. Tune in to see what we're grilling up on the barbecue.
On Tuesday's Daytime Ottawa, we're going to be joined by the Distress Center of Ottawa and Region, of course, talking about the importance of mental health and some of the great services that they offer through the Distress Center. We'll introduce you to local singer-songwriter Christine Graves and tell you about her brand new album, and we'll tell you about a major renewal going on at the beautiful Bytown Museum. All that and more on Tuesday's Daytime Ottawa.
Think it's okay to drive high? Think again. Drug-impaired driving is as illegal as drunk driving, and in Ontario, the penalties are the same. If police suspect you're driving under the influence of drugs of any kind, or a combination of drugs and alcohol, and you fail a roadside test, your license will be suspended immediately for up to 30 days. You'll pay a penalty of $198. And you can be charged with a criminal offense of impaired driving, the same as alcohol. Driving high is never okay.
Hi, I'm Meg from AIM Fitness, and I'm here with my buddy Fit Finley. Join us every week for Fit Over 50. We'll take you through some low-impact and high-intensity workouts designed to improve your strength and your balance. All you'll need is a resistance band, some light hand weights, and also your water bottle and a sturdy chair. Tune in right here on Rogers TV and let us be part of your weekly routine.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
My name is Joel Tamas. This is Red Heaven, and we are going to be playing the Encore concert here in Ottawa. I got goosebumps just looking at like the lighting and the sound, and like it's very exciting to show up at a place like Shankman.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Thank you again for spending time with us on City News. We couldn't do what we do without you, so we appreciate it very much. And we also appreciate Ben Wise from the Historical Society of Ottawa. One of the things I love to do is I love to look back on this city. How did we become the capital of this city? How did we become shaped the way we are? And Ben always has some great information. We're going to be focusing today on all things Bytown. How are you, Ben?
Good morning, Sam. I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. Talk to us a little bit about Bytown. We hear the word Bytown a lot when it comes to our history, but help us out a little bit.
Yeah, so a few weeks ago you asked me how Bytown came to be the capital of Canada, and that's why I'm very excited that we'll be telling that story tomorrow evening when we put on our first virtual speaker series presentation of the year. It's going to be at 7 p.m. on Zoom, so everybody can sit back and enjoy it at home despite the snowstorm that'll be brewing outside. And our speaker will be Alistair Sweeney, an author who's been writing about Canada's history for almost half a century. Alistair's going to tell the story of Bytown's beginnings and put a special focus on the contributions of Thomas Mackay, an ambitious Scotsman who arrived in Bytown to build the Rideau Canal and never left. Thomas Mackay didn't leave Bytown when most of the other masons and many of the other workers did as soon as the canal work was complete. Thomas Mackay stuck around. Mackay saw something in Bytown that maybe nobody else did. Now, Bytown was a rough and tumble place during and after the building of the Rideau Canal. All that was going on after the canal was done was the business of chopping down and processing the pines of the Ottawa Valley, woodsmen, lumberjacks, and lumber barons. Bytown consisted mainly of piles of wood and piles of sawdust everywhere. Even the river bottom of the Ottawa River was getting clogged with sawdust. And there was drunkenness and fighting and brawling all the time. When people long for the good old days, this was not the good old days. Mm-hmm. The French Canadian and Irish Catholics far outnumbered the affluent Protestants, and none of these three groups got along very well. At one point, a manipulative businessman named Peter Aylin formed a dangerous gang of Irish followers who terrorized most of Bytown's citizenry for years on end. They were known as the Shiners, and they were feared by all, even by Bytown's few lawmen. One French-Canadian Catholic priest had thrown up his hands and declared, "There is no God in Bytown." Elizabeth Briere and the Grey Nuns, who later performed their heroics during the 1847 typhus epidemic, had been initially sent from Montreal in an attempt to save the souls of Bytown. But through all of this, one man still held out great hope for Bytown, and that was Thomas Mackay. Everyone else saw a ragged lumber town that behaved like one of these places in a Wild West movie. Thomas Mackay, on the other hand, envisioned that Bytown would one day be the capital of the great nation of Canada. Thomas Mackay had a heck of a lot to do with Bytown becoming the capital. He had come from Ottawa with great credentials. He had been the principal contractor on Montreal's Lachine Canal and Fort Lennox, and he helped build Montreal's beautiful Notre Dame Basilica.
Wow.
It's not surprising that Mackay was then asked to come to Bytown when Colonel By was given the immense task of making sure the Rideau Canal got built. Mackay built the Ottawa locks. Those are the ones below Parliament Hill. He built the Hog's Back locks, and he worked on sections all the way along the canal. Mackay built the commissary building at the Ottawa locks, now Ottawa's oldest stone building, now home to the Bytown Museum. He built Colonel By a house up above in what is now Majors Hill Park. He built the barracks and the hospital up top of what became known as Barracks Hill, that we now know as Parliament Hill. Mm-hmm. It was way back at the laying of the cornerstone of the canal, way back at the beginning, that Mackay was first truly inspired that much bigger things lay ahead for Bytown. His work on the Rideau Canal not only left Mackay with a great sense of pride, his work also left him with a great deal of cash. The canal had been a great priority for the military, and so they paid well. Mackay was now ready to devote his time and his financial resources to the betterment of this brand new community. Once the canal was complete and everyone else left town, Mackay stuck around, and he built Ottawa's first Presbyterian church, St. Andrew's. He stepped up to serve as a member of Bytown's first municipal council, as a member of the legislature of Upper Canada and later of Canada. He performed as colonel of the militias. He created the village of New Edinburgh. Another chunk of his land became today's Rockcliffe Park. Mackay constructed a mill and an industrial complex around Rideau Falls. He pushed for and achieved Bytown's incorporation as a real town. Prior to Bytown's choice as capital of Canada, the Governor-General, Lord Elgin, had visited Bytown in 1853. Rampaging Tories had burned down the previous Parliament buildings in Montreal, and so the hunt was on for a new capital. Many, including Thomas Mackay, dreamed the big dream that Bytown, despite all the odds, might get picked as that new capital. This visit by Lord Elgin was seen as their big chance. Thomas Mackay had the Governor General stay at the lovely home he had built for his family. That home of Mackay's is known today as Rideau Hall, and of course many more Governor Generals have now spent many more nights there. Thomas Mackay also built Earnscliffe, the big cliff-top house along the Ottawa River that was home to Sir John Macdonald and is now the British High Commission. Everything Mackay did conformed to his grand vision for Bytown's future, and he accomplished all of these things without great fanfare. He was not one to want to be on the front page of the newspaper. His reward was the satisfaction of doing what he thought was right for Bytown's destiny, and the general prosperity of the up-and-coming nation that Canada was becoming.
Well, I'm just thinking, Ben, like I don't ever remember sort of hearing, other than my chats with you, is there anything named after him, for instance?
Yeah, there is certainly a Mackay Street, and there's an iconic picture of Colonel By with plans looking at the Rideau Canal, and it's Mackay that's right by his side. He was by Colonel By's side, but when Colonel By was long gone, Mackay had other plans. He was determined that Bytown's future would be bright. Wow. But one big obstacle lay ahead. Major cities were all getting connected up by trains. When Mackay came to realize that Bytown could never be considered as the capital without a rail connection, he poured his money into building the Bytown and Prescott Railway, a railway that would never make any money, but one that he knew was crucial if Bytown was going to have any chance in the tight competition to be Canada's capital. And guess what, Sam? It worked. Mackay's Railway was the final piece Bytown needed to make the shortlist.
Wow. That's fascinating to me, and these are the things that I love learning from you, Ben, because I think a lot of people don't know the history of this city, and we as some people actually commented last time or a couple of weeks ago when we spoke that they didn't realize that it was such a fight to become the capital.
It absolutely was. And, he died less than a year after that first train pulled into Bytown, 10 weeks before Bytown's name was changed to Ottawa, and 2 years before Queen Victoria announced her choice as Ottawa's the new capital.
Wow.
So tomorrow night, Alistair's going to tell the full story about Mackay and Bytown's beginnings. He's a great storyteller. He's a very thorough historian, and he's going to pepper his presentation with over 100 fabulous images he has to share. Sam, our Zoom presentations are always on the last Wednesday evening of the month, so it's a total coincidence that we happen to be having this presentation about a Scotsman on Robbie Burns Day. We've already learned that some folks in Scotland will be signing on, even though it'll be past midnight there.
Oh, that's so fun. I just put that together myself. That's awesome. That's great.
And I guess it's not surprising because we had audience members from as far away as Peru for our last virtual talk, which was on Ottawa's area's Indigenous history.
And what do you have coming up for the rest of the year? Do you have a few months planned in advance?
Oh, we absolutely do. We're being careful to announce our in-person speaker series about 1 month out, and our next one is in 2 weeks, and that's going to be a double feature, and it's going to be featuring a talk about Ottawa's early Ottawa homes of our prime ministers, and the second part is going to be talking about the history of street art in Ottawa.
Oh, fun. Oh, fun. I want to be part of that one. Thank you so much, Ben. I love getting caught up with you every Tuesday. I always learn something from Ben Wise. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam.
Ben Wise spending time with us, the Historical Society of Ottawa, learning all about Bytown. If you want to get caught up with them and participate in the in-person opportunities or those virtual presentations, definitely reach out to them. They're always looking for new people to participate. We're getting ready for a very busy lunch today. Larry Hill's going to be here. Sylvie Begras is going to be here. We're going to be talking about police budgets. We're going to be talking about, of course, the upcoming 1-year milestone of the so-called Freedom Convoy. We're also going to be talking about that new police building. Price tag, over $170 million. It's planned for the Barrhaven area. Stay with us here on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Join me for Season 3 of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. Whew, that was a lot. I think I need a nap.
after a night out with your friends, not having a plan for a safe ride home can leave you in a bad spot. You could end up riding in a police car, an ambulance, or a hearse. These unplanned modes of transportation can be a costly choice and do not take you home. Your plan could include a designated driver, a taxi, or public transit. Drink responsibly, choose your ride, and have a plan for a safe ride home.
Visit ArriveAlive.org to find out more.
Hey folks, it's me, Giovanni Patini, the host of the RTV quiz show, the hottest show on television. It's the hilarious quiz show where you, the viewers, play for valuable non-existent prizes. It's got great trivia, fun facts, and a lot of laughs, all blended together in a perfect cocktail of edutainment. So join us Wednesdays at 7:30 right here on Rogers TV. Nice.
Hey, I'm Ash Ravens. I'm a singer-songwriter in Ottawa, Canada. I'm performing this week on Encore Ottawa 3, so please be sure to tune in and hope you enjoy it.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
Is City News.
CIWW 1310 AM in Ottawa.
And CJET 1011 FM in Smiths Falls and the Valley. Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
It is Tuesday, January 24th. Good afternoon. I am Damilola Unime. Right now in Ottawa and in Smiths Falls, light snow 0. Here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. A lot of federal workers could be walking off the job in the months ahead. The Public Service Alliance of Canada says 120,000 of its members will be holding a strike vote between February 22nd to April 19th. Specifically, this impacts public service employees working in program and administrative services, operational services, technical services, and education and library science. Alex Silas is PSAC's Regional Executive Vice President for the National Capital Region. He tells the Samuel Bradshaw other departments could follow.
The strike votes that are already scheduled for PSAC members at CRA and members at Parks Canada and CFIA negotiations have hit the same wall, so they're not far behind. And look, our goal here is not to go on strike. Our goal is to get a fair contract with fair wage increases for workers in the federal public service and to set a standard for all workers coming out of the pandemic.
Silas says the union is willing to return to the table even when the feds are ready to negotiate a fair deal for its members. A statement from the union did not specify what type of raise the union is looking for at the table. With the weather forecast for Ottawa and the Valley, here is City News weather specialist Denise Andriachi.
A guaranteed high of +1 today. It's a breezy day, mostly cloudy. A few scattered flurries here and there. We may see about 2 centimeters locally. Not too bad. And it's enough to make for some wet roads, so just take it easy. And then tomorrow, you'll really need to adjust your driving and just avoid a commute altogether. The Wednesday morning commute won't be as bad as the drive home tomorrow. And then also Thursday morning, we may have school bus cancellations Thursday morning. We'll have to see how long the snow really sticks around overnight into pre-dawn Thursday. But we are expecting anywhere from 10 to up to 20 centimeters of snow. Overnight tonight, -10.
City News time is 12:02. The Russell County Detachment of the OPP has arrested and charged a 15-year-old who was found in possession of a stolen vehicle. At about 2:30 this morning, officers attempted to stop a suspected stolen vehicle traveling eastbound on Highway 417 near the Lamonge exits. Police say the driver failed to stop but was located shortly after and arrested. The 15-year-old, who is from Etobicoke, has been charged under the Criminal Code and the Highway Traffic Act. The charges include possession of property obtained by crime over $5,000 and flies from a peace officer. The identity of the accused cannot be released under the terms of the Youth Criminal Justice Act. And nominations for the 95th Academy Award are now out.
A big morning for Everything Everywhere All at Once.
What's happening?
The Multiverse movie scoring a leading 11 nominations, including 3 acting nods, directing, and the big one, Best Picture, where it's up against 9 other films. Netflix's All Quiet on the Western Front, the only streaming Best Picture nominee, and The Banshees of Inisherin also with 9 nods.
What did you come here for?
The rest of the Best Picture category includes blockbusters Top Gun Maverick, Avatar: The Way of Water, and Elvis, Tar, Women Talking, Triangle of Sadness, and Steven Spielberg's The Fabelmans. Jason Nathanson, ABC News, Hollywood.
I am Damilola Unime. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Connecting you and your community. This is the Sam Laprade Show on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Okay, it's lunchtime, everybody. I hope you're taking a little break from working so hard. We're going to be feasting on some of those hot topics of the day. We've invited a couple of people to the table. We invite business leaders, community leaders, politicians sometimes. Lots of people come to the lunch table here at City News, and today we're happy to invite Larry Hill, former Deputy Police Chief with the Ottawa Police Service. Hello, Larry.
Hi.
Thanks so much for spending time with us. So we've also asked Sylvie Begras to pull up a seat at the table from Lowertown Community Association, the president there. Hi, Sylvie.
Hi, Sam. It's great to join you today.
It's great to have you both here, and lots to talk about today. Let's get right to it. We know that a very important meeting took place last night from the Ottawa Police Services Board. We know that Chief Stubbs, we heard from our new chief, Eric Stubbs, in regards to the convoy. Here's what he had to say. We're going to bring you that clip in a second, but we wanted to get your thoughts, Larry, first on the direction of the OPS when it comes to the anniversary of the convoy. Do you think the chief is holding a hard line there?
Oh, he seems to be. Yes, he's certainly got things lined up in case there is a repeat or an attempt of a repeat of the Freedom Convoy protest.
What do you think, Sylvie, in terms of the chief? Do you think he's holding a hard line there as well?
Well, as you know, Lowertown was hard hit last February. You know, along with Centertown, our residents and even visitors and businesses were very impacted with the Rideau Center closing. Lots of our young people work there at minimum wage, you know, and the businesses closed in the Byard Market as well. So, and not to mention the safety, security, people still feeling PTSD. They tell me every time they see a truck that has a Canadian flag or something. So obviously, our community was impacted. I would say that what we've seen so far from the new chief is solid, clear, and we all have very strong faith that the plan they have in place will be excellent, and you know, obviously there could be some little things going on, but we don't believe at all that we'll see the large presence of the trucks that we saw last February.
Here's what Chief Eric Stubbs had to say yesterday.
So I've met with the officer in charge of the precinct, and certainly, I don't think a decision is being made imminently, but we are the police of jurisdiction for that whole area, for the roads, for the buildings that are, in that area. But obviously, we're working, I think, very well with that organization, that agency right now. And if they are expanded, we're going to work with them. So it's all about the detail, it's all in the details as well too, on what their expansion might look like and how we're involved in that. But all I can say is this: we're going to work with the parliamentary precinct very closely, as we have in particular the last year.
This was an important message, I think, Larry, to hear from the chief. We haven't heard a lot from him, so this was important that he was pretty clear.
Yes, very important. There are a lot of people affected by that, and Sylvie, I understand whenever I see a pickup truck flying Canadian flags, I get a bit of a flashback to last year. So this is very important to ease people's minds that this won't be a repeat of last year.
And I know that Wellington area, Sylvie, would be an important area for you as well to be thinking about. Here's what Eric Stubbs had to say, our chief had to say on that subject.
So, and the mayor's perspective on Wellington Street is a valid one, and one that I think is shared by a lot of community members. There's some, I'm sure, that would be against that, but it is, for me, it's about if you proceed down that path, ensuring that everything is looked at in its totality and not just that street. It's a piece of the pie, and you need to look at the whole pie to make sure that we have a proper response to that general area.
Are you happy he's looking at the whole pie, Sylvie?
Absolutely, and also in the interim short term, it's terrible right now. It looks like a demilitarized zone, I live a few blocks from there. Obviously, our community is right next to that. It's a major access point for people. Right now, if you want to go from where we are in Lower Town in the market down to the other side of downtown West, you're navigating through all these streets downtown, or many people just crossing into Quebec and going on the other side. I think it's really silly. So in the short term, absolutely open up Wellington. And in the long term, yes, come out with some thoughtful, well-executed plans for whatever it is you'd like to see, whether it's a tram or pedestrian or whatever. But in the short term, open it up. It just looks really silly. And I know that, the police force under Chief Stubbs will manage it properly. I don't think it's going to turn into a rodeo if you open the street tomorrow.
What would you do, Larry, if you were in that role in terms of Wellington?
Well, I think it's essential that Wellington be opened up again. It's been a year now, so I'm hoping that City Council will decide to open it up. You can close it if the need arises very quickly with barricades and things brought in. But for now, it is a major link, and I think we're going to be losing one of the bridges from Gatineau over to Ottawa. So if Wellington's closed, it's really going to put a kink in people coming back and forth that live and work on either side of the provincial border.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be interesting for sure. Well, Sylvia, I know you're focused, of course, on the Lower Town community. We're going to head all the way to Barrhaven. We heard from Councillor Wilson Lowe in regards to the new police building on Prince of Wales there, and the reason for the rise in cost.
To my understanding, the increase came from the increased cost of material and labor during the pandemic. You'll recall that this was shelved in 2020, I think 2020 or 2021 because of that.
What do you think, Sylvie, in terms of this new building? Were you surprised, or had you been following this story?
Following it in the big picture sense, I will admit that it's a bit worrisome. While I don't have the details of it, our community feels that prevention and treatment needs to be part of the overall approach, and there perhaps needs to be a balance between prevention versus policing and enforcement. And I'll use an example. We have a community support police officer in Lower Town. I'll name him Sébastien Lemay. I have so much time for that gentleman. He provides his personal phone and email to our residents if there's any issues. He attends our monthly community meetings to give us reports on what's going on. He listens to us. He hears us. He follows up on everything. He is fabulous. I'm thinking this one engaged police officer is having more impact on our community than if you, I think, built a building, right? It's that engagement that really matters. And so that's the first thing. And back to the prevention and treatment, right now in Lower Town, there are predators around the concentration of social services we have. So if you want to sell drugs, do human trafficking, prey on the homeless, it's very easy. You just hang out there. And so we have more crime and more issues because the predators have this kind of captive audience. And so if you start taking the homeless off the street, giving them a place to stay, if you start treating the mental health and the addiction issues properly, and they get the help they need, then perhaps the policing aspect of it becomes more of a collaborative with the community and helping, as opposed to coming in once the person has been stabbed in the parking lot of a shelter, right? So I'm not quite sure there's a proper balance between that prevention side with the enforcement side.
Really interesting perspective. Thank you, Sylvie, for that. And I think back to Larry when we used to work together, and your role, of course, with Nepean Police, and I was working for the mayor, Barry Pitt, at the time. And I think about if you would have said to us at that time, well, maybe you knew, I didn't know, but at that time, Larry, that there would be a police station on Prince of Wales right there near the Vimy Bridge, and you would be taking away that Greenbank location and that Leitrim location, I would have said, no way, but that's the plan.
Well, and it's dollars and cents versus building a new facility that's state-of-the-art versus upkeep on two other buildings that one was built as a police station, the other wasn't. So it's dollars and cents. You have to have a place to work from that's out there. It's exploding in population development. We talked about this actually when I was still working, which is about 15 years ago, the need to have something out there so that you can stage police cars and police units to be able to populate that area with patrol and with investigative elements.
A little bit earlier in my conversation with Councillor Wilson Lowy, talked about the rise in crimes in the Barrhaven area.
During the campaign, I heard a lot of residents speak about the increasing traffic violations, the petty crimes, and as well as car theft that have just been at an absurd level in Barrhaven.
Such an important conversation because I think, in many ways, Sylvie, we think about all crime happening downtown, and that's not to forgo the fact that there is a lot of crime downtown, but it really is happening everywhere. What do you think about the comments from the councillor?
Well, we are advocating for a 24-ward approach to social services. Crime happens in every one of our 24 wards. People lose their jobs or get divorced and end up in the street everywhere in our 24 wards. People have mental health issues everywhere. And so that, to me, is very well linked to Councillor Lowe's comments, where we need to help people in their communities. So that is something that we're really advocating for, is helping people within their community, and hopefully, that treatment side and prevention side that I was talking about will have an impact on lessening crime in each of our 24 wards. We need to work together and have a balance of helping people in each of our communities. We're kind of, shipping everything off to Lower Town, Sandy Hill, and Vanier, and we have to stop doing that.
And I think, Barrhaven lost its innocence in so many ways. Larry, when I think about, there's been a couple of murders in the community. There's been, we remember that famous picture of somebody brandishing a gun on Stranraer. And then, of course, we think about every single week, it seems someone's posting a story about their vehicle being stolen out of their driveway. So sleepy Barrhaven is no more, Larry.
No, that went by the wayside a long time ago. Wherever you have a concentration of people, you're going to have elements of social disorder or social issues. So that's what we're seeing there as the population increases and as the demographics change in Barrhaven as well. But I agree with Sylvie. You have to have an approach that will take care of the root issues of what police respond to every day. And that has to be all across the board because these issues are happening everywhere.
Absolutely. Enjoying my lunch with you too. Thank you so much. Sylvie Begraw joining us, of course, the president of the Lowertown Community Association and former deputy police chief of the Ottawa Police Service. Larry Hill has pulled up a chair as well. When we come back, we're going to talk about that important Ottawa Police Service board meeting that took place last night and some of the discussion regarding delegations. And we're going to ask, what would you do if you were the mayor and your topics that you'd be talking about at your State of the City address? Stay with us here on Rogers TV and City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Bum, 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 bum.
20 bucks. 20 bucks. We're on the line for 20 bucks.
On the next episode of Simply Cooking by Chef, I'm joined by my friend Neil from Ottawa Valley Meats. Tune in to see what we're grilling up on the barbecue.
Hello, I'm Liz Dowdswell, Lieutenant Governor of Ontario. In 2008, carbon monoxide, a deadly invisible gas, killed an entire family in our province. That tragedy led to a new law requiring homes with potential CO sources to have alarms. John Gignac's family members passed away that day, and he shares his story to save others.
Please make sure you have working CO alarms in your home. Protect your family today.
All I wanted was to see a movie. One down, please.
I can't sell downstairs tickets to you people.
How dare they? I could afford to buy the more expensive ticket. I run my own business. But they refused to take my money. They left me there all night. On what charge? They said I didn't pay the theater tax. But it was really about color.
Sister Desmond, appeal this conviction and your community will stand behind you.
Do you have any idea what this will do to us?
So what are you going to do? Make it right.
Viola Desmond's case inspired Nova Scotia's civil rights movement. She was pardoned 63 years later based on the injustice of her conviction.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
My name is Joel Tamas, this is Red Heaven, and we are going to be playing the Encore concert here in Ottawa. I got goosebumps just looking at the lighting and the sound, and it's very exciting to show up at a place like Shankman.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, thanks so much for joining us for lunch. We're getting ready for the business lunch as well, and we're going to be talking a little bit about beer. And if you have a gluten sensitivity, you want to stay with us. You're going to learn about a local brewery that has your back. We wanted to welcome back to the show Larry Hill, of course, former Deputy Chief with the Ottawa Police Service, and Sylvie Begras, Lower Town Community Association President. Lots of discussion today regarding that important Ottawa Police Service Board meeting that took place last night. And let me ask you, Larry, when you think about the public delegations that you would have been a part of in your years of service, what do you think about the reduction of those public delegations, sometimes limiting them to 3 minutes and limiting it to an hour, and it not being part of a regular meeting? Those were big discussions last night. What are your thoughts, Larry?
Well, I can understand, having served on boards and being subject to a board. I understand the need for them to get their business done. Boards have a legislative responsibility to conduct certain aspects of their business, but having public access is a central component to all of that. And I think it has to be connected to the board meeting itself, not a separate hour. I think that's not going to work very well for people who want to express their issues and their opinions to the board. A 5-minute limit is kind of standard across the board, so lessening that really is in relation to, I think, what's happened recently with the board meetings, with some people who are trying to circumvent that 5-minute limit and press their issues. So, but I think there's other ways to do that.
Mm-hmm. Really interesting. I agree with you, Larry. I think it's a really big mistake to move it away from the actual meeting. I mean, that is the business of the board to hear from outsiders. I think with all the trust issues that the police are facing right now, Sylvie, that it probably is a good idea to maybe rethink that piece.
Absolutely. And I'm going to take a very hard line on this. Public engagement is important. It is crucial. I agree with what both of you have just said. Absolutely has to be done properly. You know, I've been doing a lot of public consultations with the city previous to my role as LCA president, and also much more during my current tenure with our community association. And I'll be honest, some of it is, if not much of it, is tokenistic and often patronizing. It's disgusting. We community residents, we live and we breathe where, our community. We know the issues. We also have solutions to offer. We're engaged. We're passionate. We want to help make positive change. And I think that the city and the mayor, under this new mayor, he has an opportunity to change the brand that the city has had in its consultations. You talk to anyone across this broad city of ours, and I think they would reflect some of the things I'm saying right now. So this is a really bad start in limiting public engagement and not having them as part of the formal board. You know what? We built a Canadarm on the International Space Station. If we want to provide public engagement access to our boards and there's no time, then we can fix it. We can change the model. We can have, it's not that complex. Public engagement is important. It's crucial. The city has not done a good job on it, and this is not a good start.
Beautifully said, and I agree wholeheartedly. Let's have a little bit of a lightning round here, Larry. If you were advising the mayor on the top 3 topics for tomorrow's State of the City address by Mayor Mark Sutcliffe, what would you say are the top 3?
Well, overarching taxes versus services. How are the City of Ottawa going to manage services versus a tax limit, tax increase limit? The second is public transit, of course, always central on people's minds nowadays. How is that going to be managed in the future? Infrastructure, public safety, and mental health issues, housing, those are all things that I would have to, if I was in his position, I'd have to be addressing.
Mm-hmm. Sylvie, your top 3.
I'm going to be LCA-centric on this. The first thing I would say is the Bytown Market Secondary Plan was approved by previous council, but no funds were allotted to it. The Bytown Market is a jewel. It's the epicenter of our tourism center. It's historic. It's vibrant, becoming a bit dated. We need some help. This plan will revitalize it. The pedestrian areas that we started looking at, activations like Dia de los Muertos, the lighting. There's some nice initiatives have been done, but it's not enough, and there needs to be a cohesive plan that is supported by the city. The Bytown Market matters to all of us, so that's the first thing. The second thing, which you've heard me speak about, Sam, is social services, for all the right reasons, to help those in need in their community and stop having such a negative impact where you concentrate too many social services. And the third, I agree with Larry, public transit, absolutely. We need a clear plan that has stated objectives of how the city will address our transit issues.
Well, we'll be watching very closely tomorrow to see what Mayor Mark Sutcliffe says, and maybe he's got all those topics included from all of you today. We like ending our lunch here on a bit of a fun note. And Larry, today, if you could believe it, in 1984, the very first Macintosh computer was released to the public. Are you a big fan of Apple, of Macintosh?
Yes. I have an iPhone. My wife has an iPhone. We have iPads. We are fans of Apple.
I think if I didn't have my iMac, my phone, and my tablet, I would just go live on an island somewhere because I don't know how I would connect with anybody. Sylvie, are you a big fan?
Oh, my goodness gracious. I'm what you call an early adopter. In 1984. straight out of San Francisco, I had the Macintosh Lisa, which was huge with the tiniest screen and obviously little tiny floppies. And then I had every iteration that every Mac ever produced, including the really colorful ones that were rounded. And I had the very first, what they call the transportable, not the portable, but transportable. It weighed about 80 pounds.
That's awesome.
And then I think my MacBook Air today weighs like 1 pound.
Exactly.
And so the advancement in the technology of Apple has been phenomenal, and I am a massive fan. Like
there you go.
I own a lot of Apple products.
There you go. We're 3 for 3 on this call today in terms of...
Sam, you know that Ottawa Police were... The whole computer infrastructure was Mac back in the mid-1990s.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And we had to change it when we amalgamated because the other police services were, and the city, or the region at the time, were on PC.
Well, look at you. Wealth of information. Great chat today. What a fun topic. Thank you so much for spending time with us today. I really appreciate having lunch today with Larry Hill, former Deputy Police Chief with Ottawa Police Service, and Sylvie Begral, Lower Town Community Association President. That was a lot of fun. Lots of great information. Lock it into City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Join me for Season 3 of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. Whew, that was a lot. I think I need a nap.
Summer days, summer nights, lots of things to do, places to go, and people to see. If you're having a few drinks, be sure to plan ahead and get home safely. We don't want to pick you up. Drinking drivers risk injuries to themselves and others and take chances with their license, their jobs, and their future. Remember what's at stake and choose your ride, whether you're the driver, the passenger, or the party host. Thanks for supporting sober driving. I hope we never meet.
Visit arrivealive.org to find out more.
I'm Julian Armour from Music and Beyond. Join us for a new show this spring on Rogers called Music and Beyond Presents.
Hey, I'm Ash Ravens. I'm a singer-songwriter in Ottawa, Canada. I'm performing this week on Encore Ottawa 3, so please be sure to tune in and hope you enjoy it.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
Local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 101.1 everywhere.
It is Tuesday, January 24th. Good afternoon. I am Damilola Unime. Right now in Ottawa and Smith Falls, it is 1 degree and mostly cloudy. And here's what's making news this hour. The Montfort Hospital is set to start transferring patients waiting for alternative level of care to dedicated 20-bed units at Beacon Heights retirement residence. The hospital says the decision to relocate patients who no longer require acute hospital care will help free up beds for others waiting to be admitted. The hospital says the transfer will also allow these patients to benefit from living in an environment that is better suited for their current health needs. Physicians from the hospital will continue to provide care to the patients at the Beacon Heights. And some Public Service Alliance members are set to vote on whether to strike. 120,000 workers are scheduled to vote between February 22nd and April the 19th. The vote is for workers in the program and administrative, operational, technical, and education and library science bargaining groups. The union telling members they have to hold the line on fair wages, protect people from discrimination, and have safe workplaces that take into account work-life balance. The government has offered just over 2% wage increase, which the union says is insulting. City News time is 12:32. I am Damilola Unime. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, it is the business lunch, and we're going to do something kind of fun to kick off our business lunch today. One of the things I love to do is I love to watch TSC, and I'm always seeing some great products on there. One of the products that I have watched for so many years and just get so much enjoyment out of is the Elizabeth Grant skincare products. And if you can believe it, Elizabeth Grant has turned 100 years old, and she looks absolutely gorgeous. I was looking at her picture last night thinking, I think she looks younger than I do. And we're so happy today. TSC has given us this opportunity to celebrate the 100th birthday of Elizabeth Grant by giving away an incredible package of skincare. If you can believe it, these favorites are all packaged together for you, and they value over $435. Over $435 of beautiful Elizabeth Grant products. So we want you to call. This is your chance to have all things Elizabeth Grant. Give us a shout right now, 613-750-1310. That's 613-750-1310. Caller number 10 will win the beautiful package. I took a peek at the package. It's got everything in there you can possibly imagine. Beautiful products. Might be for the guys out there. You may want to call because it would be a great Valentine's Day gift. Everything Elizabeth Grant, and we're wishing Elizabeth Grant a beautiful 100th birthday. And of course, if you don't win today, you're still looking to pick up some great skincare. You can check out TSC for everything Elizabeth Grant. The callers are calling now. Hopefully you're going to win. Call once again. We're taking caller number 10. We appreciate your time today. We talk all things business. We love heading all over the place. We're heading to Perth now to speak with Jeremy Steeves, co-owner of the Perth Brewery. Hi, Jeremy. Oh, Jeremy's going to get on the line in a second, and we're going to be chatting. Oh, the lines, of course, are now full. See, we've done a great job of filling up those lines. So we're going to get a call out to Jeremy in a second. But we're going to be talking with Jeremy about all things gluten-reduced beers. If you're, got a sensitivity to gluten, you'll want to stay for Jeremy's chat. So our producers are working hard to get him on the line to talk about that. We also wanted to talk today with Mandy Gossowitz. She is with Stunning Accessories, ironically, in the Byward Market. She has this beautiful store. She's celebrating the 10th anniversary of Stunning Accessories and having an opportunity to connect with her today to celebrate that anniversary, which will be fantastic. And then I think Noah and I are going to have a little chat a little bit later because, of course, those Oscar nominations are out. And Noah, my producer, one of my producers, and I are going to have a chat about all things Oscars. He loves movies. I love movies. So we're going to be chatting with him about all things Oscars. But first of all, we're heading to Perth as promised, and Jeremy Steeves joins me now. Hi, Jeremy.
How are you?
Good. Jeremy is the co-owner of the Perth Brewery. Pretty cool gig you have.
Well, thank you. We think so too.
Absolutely. So tell us a little history about the brewery.
A little history. My dad started the business in 1993, so we're in our 30th year here now. Back then, there was not a lot of consumer demand for craft beer, but we still made some headway with locals wanting to do something a little bit different than the norm, and it was a great way to get some beer with a little bit more adventurous kind of qualities going. And slowly with time, the whole craft beer culture has really caught on, and now consumers are really enjoying having local and quality made beer. So it's going well.
Well, that's fantastic. And, it was one thing I know about a brewery is you have to stay relevant, right, in order to keep attracting new clientele. You've done that in a number of different ways as well, Jeremy. So talk to me a little bit about the evolution of the brewery.
Well, in the 90s, we were operating a model where we brought in individual canning machines, and customers could actually can their own product. So that was kind of like how we really got going and got established, and then quickly realized a few short years later that there was demand for convenience, and so we opened up, got the retail shop going here, conveniently located right on the highway. And in the summertime, Perth's a real strong kind of cottage community, so the summers are busy with tourism and cottagers, and really that traffic and interest in local product really just drove the business. And we expanded a few times over the years and brought in some, obviously had to bring in more equipment and more experienced staffing, and here we are now, just cooking away.
Well, that's fantastic. Can we talk a little bit about gluten?
Yeah, for sure.
So some people that have a gluten sensitivity, they may not be able to enjoy beer, but you've changed all that.
Yeah, so in the early days, we had some interest in beer that was low in gluten with some of our clientele that had gluten sensitivities. So we brought in an enzyme that we introduced during the fermentation process that actually hydrolyzes, essentially when added during fermentation, it renders the gluten molecule water. So we hydrolyze the gluten molecule with this enzyme. No compromise to flavor in our beer, so it's still traditional ingredients, traditional flavor profiles, but very low gluten content. And now what we've got is a product that's at 5 parts per million gluten with no compromise to flavor. So with the current age and consumer interest in health and awareness, there are a lot of our consumers now that are driven to moderate the gluten in their diet, and we've even got a number of celiacs that drink our beer. The gluten-reduced component actually works for them too. So really happy about that, and really happy that the flavor profile satisfies everybody.
For sure. And what's so interesting, honestly, I think every second person I know has got some sort of gluten sensitivity. So, I mean, this isn't a small market. This could be quite big.
It's really incredible. I guess where we're at, this point in time, there's a lot more awareness and a lot more, access to information and technology to kind of research what's going on with our health and wellness. And yeah, there's a lot of sensitivities now, one of which is, there's a lot of us with gluten sensitivities, and whether we're diagnosed celiac or we just want to, decrease our gluten intake, it's pretty incredible how much awareness there is now and how much interest there is in this product. So we're really excited to be able to offer it.
For sure. When you were a young lad and your father was opening this brewery, did you think that was pretty cool?
I sure did.
Yeah, I bet. Hey, what does your dad do?
It was cool when I finally got my hands on a key.
Oh, that's so funny. Because I just think about like you kind of go around. Oh, what does your dad do? Oh, he works for the government, or he works at a bank, or that's what my father did. Or whatever. And then my dad runs a brewery. That's pretty cool.
It does sound cool. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
And what have you learned about yourself, Jeremy, in the brewery business?
Well, the craft beer industry, small batch brewing, it really allows us to express and explore our creativity. It's a beautiful industry in that we get to deal with a lot of people, including our local community and, like-minded individuals within the industry. So really grateful. I really enjoy that. Gets us out of the brewery on occasion with events and sales and just having fun that way. So, I mean, it's not, there was work to be done, but there's also an enjoyable side of it as well. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it's been a really good time. It's a well-rounded business to be involved in, and quite satisfying and fulfilling.
That's fantastic. Well, hopefully we've inspired someone to check out your gluten-reduced beers, and maybe you've just made someone's day, Jeremy.
Well, I certainly hope so.
That'd be fantastic.
I should just add, if anybody is now sort of like we've got their interest, we do brew all of our beers this way. There's an information page on our website you can check out. And yeah, so our beer is widely available in LCBOs, grocery stores, and beer stores, as well as here at the brewery. We're open 7 days a week, and would love to have people try it out.
Fantastic. Thanks for sharing all things beer with us today. Jeremy Steve spending time with us, of course, co-owner of the Perth Brewery. Appreciate his time today. Well, we have a winner, everybody. Louise Boone is the winner of a package of beautiful Elizabeth Grant products. Of course, we're celebrating the 100th birthday of Elizabeth Grant. You can get all those products on TSC. I love watching TSC. I might have bought a little bit of cookware before Christmas as well. Love checking out everything on TSC. Louise Boone is the big winner, and I know she's going to enjoy those beautiful products, so we appreciate her participating. Thanks, everybody, for calling as well. I know you kept our producers hopping at City News during that time, so thanks very much for all the great calls. When we come back, we're going to spend some time with Mandy Gossowich from Stunning Accessories, celebrating 10 years in business. She's learned some lessons. Let's hear about them when we come back on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Bum, 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 bum. $20. $20. We're on the line for $20.
On the next episode of Simply Cooking by Chef, I'm joined by my friend Neil from Ottawa Valley Meats. Tune in to see what we're grilling up on the barbecue.
On Tuesday's Daytime Ottawa, we're going to be joined by the Distress Center of Ottawa and Region, of course, talking about the importance of mental health and some of the great services that they offer through the Distress Center. We'll introduce you to local singer-songwriter Christine Graves and tell you about her brand new album, and we'll tell you about a major renewal going on at the beautiful Bytown Museum. All that and more on Tuesday's Daytime Ottawa.
It's closing time, and you stayed out longer than you planned. So now you can't drive, and the buses have stopped running. You could always call your girlfriend. Or maybe your roommate? What about your best friend? You could just dial 1-888-TAXI-GUY or use the Taxi Guy app. The call and the app are free, and they both connect you to a local cab company to bring you home safely. Visit arrivealive.org to find out more. Arrive Alive, drive sober.
Do you have something to share? Let everyone know about your next meeting, your need for volunteers, or your fundraising event on the Rogers TV Community Billboard. Send us your words and we'll bring them to life on Rogers TV and rogerstv.com. When it's time to spread the word, go to rogerstv.com to add your announcement to the Community Billboard.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
My name is Joel Tamas. This is Red Heaven, and we are going to be playing the encore concert here in Ottawa. I got goosebumps just looking at the lighting and the sound, and it's very exciting to show up at a place like Shankman.
Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Think about the last decade. Having a business in the byword market in the last decade, boy, she's been through a lot. But she's strong businesswoman. Mandy Gossowitz joins us now. Hi, Mandy.
Hi, Sam. How are you?
Good. Not only strong, but stunning. Of course, Stunning Accessories is your great business. I don't know how you do it, Mandy. You have got this amazing location, 10 years in business, and you've got a loyal following, Mandy.
I've been very, very fortunate. I really have. I'm not going to say this has been an easy 10 years. There's lots of laughter. There's lots of tears. There's lots of sleepless nights. And there's lots of anxiety. Mm-hmm. But you do it because I know for myself, this is who I am. This is being in business, being a business owner, making people look and feel stunning. This is what I do. I'm sure if I grew up in a family of doctors, I'd be a great doctor. But I grew up in a family of retailers. This is where I am.
But you've managed to really, create this great location. If people haven't had a chance to visit Stunning Accessories, it's not a big location, but when you walk in, Mandy, there's so much product, and you're really particular about what you bring in that store because, there's no junk there, Mandy.
No, and I don't do junk.
No.
What I do like to do is I like to do unique and interesting clothing, and I sweat and cry a lot trying to find unique pieces and collections that no one else carries in the city. That is one of my biggest hurdles that I have to go through. And having a 329 square foot store, I will say that is from experience of being in this business for definitely over 45 years. Mm-hmm. So learning how to merchandise is an art. You don't learn this. It's instilled in you. It comes from experience. And before I opened up the shop, I had done everything and anything in retail and wholesale to learn everything that I needed to learn to be able to open up the shop.
Mm-hmm. But I really do think it's... Yeah, sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
No, please. Sam, please, you.
I was just going to say, a lot of it is relationship building. Like I see what a great job you do on social media. I see what a great job you do out in the community. You're not just sort of in your store hoping people knock on the door. You're there, you're getting involved, right?
Yeah. Well, that is also, I think that what makes, now we're going against, a sad wave of brick and mortar stores that are starting to dissipate. And one of, I feel, is the highlights of coming into a brick and mortar store is the service. So I was taught by my late father that everyone who walks in your door is like they walk into your home. Now, when you walk into a mall, in all due respect, hi, and that's it, and then they disappear. Mm-hmm. When you walk into any store and the owner is there, and or if she or he has amazing staff, they welcome you, they embrace you, they want you to feel comfortable, they want you to enjoy the experience. And that, for me, has been really important. I love when women and men walk in and they walk out and they're like, I did not expect this.
Right. Absolutely.
And in times we've had long, heartful conversations and sharing. And I guess it's a woman's thing. And it's also, I've had great conversations with men about their relationships and everything. It's kind of like an office, if you will, but it's filled with beautiful, stunning things.
Mm-hmm, it absolutely is. Well, congratulations on 10 amazing years. And I know, and you were really honest and open about it, Mandy. It hasn't been easy, but you wear it beautifully.
No. Thank you. Well, I think that I have to say that Ottawa has been the wind beneath my wings, as has the tourism, and we can only just hope that people will continue to support and shop local and to come down to the Byward Market, because it really is. It's a very, very special part of the nation's capital that we have to embrace and we have to keep it great.
Beautifully said. Thank you so much, Mandy Goswich, spending time with us today from stunning accessories in the beautiful Byward Market, which we love so much. We appreciate her time today. We got some news today about the business of movies. Noah, you've been following closely about the Oscar nominations.
Oh, yes, and it is a sweeping year for some movies in particular.
Okay.
So, last year, a movie released called Everything Everywhere All at Once. I don't think people had much expectations for it because when it was announced, the trailer and the synopsis on IMDb just read a woman's filing her taxes. It's very simple. They tried to avoid most plot spoilers and everything like that. Currently, Sam, it is nominated for 11 Oscars.
Wow.
Including Best Picture, Best Supporting Actress, Best Original Score, Best Original Screenplay. Some of the higher hitting Oscars, you could say, I guess, that dictate the quality of a movie it has been nominated for.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's an incredible movie, and it's mostly an Asian American production too, so that's wonderful to see as well, you know, supporting the kind of Asian American filmmakers and directors, and even the lead actress, Michelle Yeoh, who was nominated for it, is of Chinese descent. So very, very cool. There's some other great movies, of course, that are debuted this year. The Banshees of Inisherin, which our good friend Keith discussed with us just 2 weeks ago. Now, I don't know if you got around to watching Banshees, but I watched it just last week. And it is a great film, I will say, but I did have a bit of issues with the pacing. And, you know, for me, movies that are just an allegory, which this movie is for the Irish Civil War, I can find the pacing can maybe slow down to a bit of a snail's crawl, but you have some amazing performances from Colin Farrell, and kind of every frame of this movie feels like a painting purposely depicting an image that you're supposed to analyze. But sometimes those kind of movies can be a bit tiring. So if I could talk about my favorite movie that I've seen recently.
Please do.
And it is actually nominated for Best Animated Feature. It's going against some hard contenders like Turning Red, which was another Chinese-made movie by Pixar, a great little film. Puss in Boots, The Last Wish.
Yes.
So this was one of those movies I had no expectations for. I knew nothing about other than it was a part of the Shrek universe. And I must say, the way it is animated and made is of such a high caliber that it's almost impossible to go to any of the other animated films this year and say that they deserve to win.
Wow.
It uses some special techniques like cell shading or frame reduction to kind of achieve some very stylistic choices to highlight some of the unique animation they do. And it's a very warm, fuzzy feeling movie. It's about a cute cat that duels with a sword, and he's played by Antonio Banderas, who's charming as ever. I mean, there's so much to love in this film, but the warmth it kind of that spreads out of this movie while you watch it is phenomenal. I watched with my partner last weekend, and we both agreed definitely the movie of the year for both of us.
Wow.
And if anyone needed a fun movie to watch with your kids, with your family, or even just on your own, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. It's an incredible film.
Good to
incredible
see.
Little film.
And I'm seeing, of course, the Oscars happening on March the 12th, so everybody will be gunning towards that day. I'm looking at the lineup here in terms of Best Picture. I'm looking at the ones that I've seen. I've seen Elvis.
Also a very good movie.
And I saw Top Gun Maverick. But that's it. I'm embarrassed to say. I need to get working.
Well, some of them too are a bit of, I guess you could say, smaller releases, like Triangle Sadness. It's not a huge release, or same as The Fabelmans. Even Tar, which is a pretty renowned movie for its performances, it didn't have much marketing behind it. It didn't have much of a push for audiences to go see it. And I guess this is a problem I see with a lot of movies that are nominated is sometimes the marketing for them is pushed and geared towards Oscar nominations, right? So movies like Tar, they're not being pushed out to try and reach a general audience. They're being pushed out specifically to try and reach those award audiences that are going to be voting on them. And it's obviously who do they do reach. But yeah, like you said, we have All Quiet on the Western Front, which is one for Best Picture that I saw recently. A Netflix World War I movie, retelling of the novel. It's a very great film, a little heavy. I mean, it is foreign as well, so I think it's up for Best International Picture as well. But it's a great little one. And then another one from the Best Pictures I would recommend is Woman Talking. Definitely a smaller released movie as well, but what a powerful movie. It's very great. And if you haven't seen that, Sam, it is right up your alley.
Well, I was just thinking, as if you don't hear this woman talking every single day for 3 hours. Noah, that was fantastic. Thanks so much for sharing all about the Oscars coming up March the 12th. We'll be breaking all those movies down before the big day. It has been a big day here on City News. Lots of information we shared with you today. We talked a little bit about that PZAC strike vote that will be starting on February the 22nd. We talked about the Ottawa Police Service Board meeting last night as well. We are working towards the big council meeting tomorrow. Ottawa City Council is meeting. Lots of big things happening there tomorrow. We're going to be keeping our eyes on that, and you'll want to keep your ears to hear. City News.
You've been listening to the Sam Laprade Show.
Tune in again for local news and community views on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.